92.5 DF Memphis with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10. It's time for Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 The first hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here are your hosts, Brett Sportsworthy and Brian Davis.
Welcome into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. Landon Schmidt producing. We're Sports Time. We're with you for the next 2.5 hours. Out a little early today. Ole Miss basketball on the road against South Carolina. We'll have complete coverage of that game tonight right here on Sports 56. Pregame starting at 5:30 with the tip-off set for 6 o'clock. A lot to get into. Grizzlies, they were winners on the road last night. One more game for them tonight against the Clippers before All-Star break. A lot of good action in the SEC last night on the hardwood, so a lot to get into today. Very basketball-heavy show this afternoon. But, Brett, how are you this afternoon?
Very basketball heavy. Today may be the least football discussed day since early June
I was
last
about to
year.
say a really long time.
Late May,
Yeah,
maybe?
Maybe.
Because
It's been a really long time.
It's over for this year.
Yeah, it's done. It's behind us.
It's done.
Time to move forward, I guess.
And tonight in the NBA, the Grizzlies play. Everybody plays in the NBA tonight. 15 games tonight, only 4 games last night, only 5 games tomorrow night, and then everybody on break, and a lot of people headed to the All-Star game, and the All-Star game being dubbed the Bay Area All-Star game. Are they having a single event in East Bay in Oakland?
No chance. No.
Just call it San Francisco. Yeah. You turned your back on Oakland years ago.
Yep.
Don't act like you're bringing in people from Oakland into the All-Star festivities.
No, I mean just call it what it is. But they're not going to do that. We should know that by now. But it seems like it's gonna be fun. I don't know. If
They're not having an event in San Jose, are they?
No, of course not.
They're not going down to Santa Clara, are they?
No.
No, it's the San Francisco All-Star game.
One
That's
location, and that location is San Francisco. So, but I think a lot of eyes will be on it this weekend with the new format, and I don't know how it'll go, but I guess it'll be fun to try it out.
The NBA All-Star game, we lost it a long time ago. We've lost all the All-Star games. They're over. The NBA All-Star game could be good, but it absolutely shouldn't settle anything. It shouldn't, like baseball those years trying to, and did. Home field advantage in the World Series. Game 7 of the World Series decided by, a ham and egg exhibition game.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm glad we've gotten away from that. And one thing baseball has done right is getting away from that. But,
we may not talk a bunch of football today, but I won't miss a shot at taking a shot at Rob Manfred.
Anytime you can, Brett.
Did you see him at the Super Bowl in the box with
I missed him.
Cast of
everybody was
stars.
In the box. I saw the tweets about it after it flashed on the television. I did not notice it when it happened.
Brian, I swear to the Almighty, I swear on anything sacred and holy, I swear. When they showed him out loud in my home by myself, you know what I said?
What'd you say?
I bet he loves football more than he does his own sport.
Probably does. I mean, I wouldn't put it past that guy.
I swear I did. I said it that animated. By myself alone in my own home, I said I bet he loves football more than he does his own sport.
That shows how much you despise that man.
Tell me why he wasn't already, somewhere getting ready for spring training.
It's Super Bowl, Brett. Nothing's bigger than the Super Bowl.
I mean, I know he loves to hang out. Who wouldn't hang out at Seminole at Palm Beach?
Yeah.
But, why is he not there getting ready for, this week and welcoming teams?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess, when, he definitely loves, I'm sure, the NFL's Super Bowl trophy more than he does the World Series.
I know he loves the Masters. He loves going to the Masters every year.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess wasn't he was like talking with Paul McCartney, like he was hanging out with Paul McCartney when they threw the shot on him?
I'm sorry for Sir Paul. It made him dumber having to talk to him.
Yes, that's right. But
Paul McCartney with more creativity in his pinky than Rob Manfred's ever been close to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And pitchers and catchers start reporting. How about that?
They do.
Baseball season's here.
Right, have you looked at any baseball picks or anything?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I've looked that far, but I did think about this today.
Okay.
And it goes back to 2001 in baseball preseason predictions. I always pick a Cardinal Yankee World Series, and I always pick Cardinals winning. Mm-hmm. I can't do it this year. I can't. Cardinals are finishing dead last.
Can we at least? Yeah, I was about to say, can we at least get one of those two? Will we have maybe a Yankee? Somebody else?
Probably will have Yankees, but Cardinals. I mean, unlike 2 years ago, 2 years ago we didn't see that coming.
No, not at all.
Maybe we didn't think they were World Series, and they sure weren't. But we didn't think that was happening. And then last year we were expecting bounce back. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, bounce back last year, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of did from the year before, bounce back.
Hard to be any worse than what they were that year.
But this year, I mean, even the most fair-minded, pro-Cardinal, thumb on the scale, well, me, just can't do it. Nobody can do it.
No, you can't. I mean, I'm already seeing...
It's a 67-win team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm already seeing people on social media put out, let's just, do the complete young guys up there, call up all the prospects and have them play. And I was like, oh, no, this is not
both
where
of
we're
us
at.
call for that. I know last year
at
deadline time.
Yeah.
Trade Halsey, trade Arenado, trade goals, anything that can have any value, deal it.
And they didn't want to. And so now you're stuck in a really bad spot, I think.
Maybe worst record in the National League for sure. Maybe in all of baseball. It's approaching, and I can't remember even some of the really shortcoming teams of the 70s.
Yeah.
I can't remember a year in my life brace far on opening day, dead freaking last.
It's not fun. Not fun to even think about. And we're still a month and a half, out from the season.
I can't even get my pitchers and catchers reporting hat on.
P's and C's.
And seeing Manfred at the Super Bowl.
Oh, man. It just makes it worse.
I don't know how I can blame the Cardinals on him, but I'll come up with a way before we get out of here at 5:30.
You'll figure out a way. You got less than 2.5 hours, but
I'll figure out a way.
I believe in you. I know you can. I know you can get it done. Last night, Grizzlies in action against Phoenix. Really good win. And Kevin Durant got it to 30,000. So really,
Ja presented the ball.
It sure did at the very end of the game. So it was. I was saying earlier today, I think it was with John, that for me, that was the best way that game could have gone, where the Grizzlies get a pretty easy win, no worries about it, but also on the other side, Kevin Durant gets to 30,000, and so it was really fun seeing both sides of that.
No sweat, easy win. He has his moment, and Phoenix, they can't wait to get to the break.
Yeah, it's bad there, and I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday. The reporting from Ramona Shelburne at trade deadline about how it's a toxic locker room, and everyone's on pins and needles, and obviously, I mean, you got to feel for Kevin Durant who's sitting there going about his business. Bradley Beal says, "I'm not going to waive my no trade clause," and then the front office immediately goes, "All right, so what can we get for KD?" I mean that seems very easy to understand why it might be a toxic locker room. But then Kevin Durant came out, I believe 2 days ago now, and kind of said, no, our locker room's fine. Don't believe someone that's just around for 15 minutes. But I trust the reporting from Ramona Shelburne that she did not just show up and go, yeah, this is kind of weird. Let me report on a toxic locker room. There's definitely been reporting there and some digging. And so, yeah, I mean, this team, it's not a good team. They've certainly got the star power, but they need to get to All-Star break, and I really don't know what to expect from this team when they come out. I just don't. We talked about it yesterday. Could this Suns team make a move and get into the playoff? I don't think they can. And it's sad because they have the stars, like I said, but they're just not a well put together team in terms of depth.
They're approaching too far back. Because when you get back from the All-Star game, it's going to be about 28, 29 game run.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, I mean, they're right there. I mean, what we were talking yesterday about, it feels like one of either them or the Warriors make it. And then in front of that, there's not much to where they can really get up further than that final spot in the play-in. And I still don't even think the Suns can make a push for the play-in at this point. I mean, nothing I saw last night makes me think that that's a team that would even want to find themselves in the play-in.
No, I didn't either. And I think the Grizzlies are badly wanting to get to the All-Star break as well, but not for the same reasons as Phoenix.
No. Very different reasons. But yeah, I think every team in the NBA is ready for the All-Star break for very different reasons. And when you look at what the Grizzlies
gas tanks hit 0 for Luke Kennard.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, had 2 weeks around the trade deadline where everyone's saying he's gone. They're going to use him in a trade. He shoots lights out, saves his spot with the Grizzlies, and then is just
scuffling February.
Is just done for. So yeah, he needs the All-Star break really, really bad. But you look at the schedule for the Grizzlies. Clippers tonight, obviously last night a road game. Then Clippers tonight also on the road. You get to the All-Star break, you get some time off, but then coming out of the All-Star break, it's not easy. On the road against Indiana, on the road against Orlando, on the road against Cleveland before you come home for a nice 5-game homestand. So, yeah, you like to have, especially on this road trip you're on right now, you like that little time off. Let everybody relax. Let everybody regroup. You're in a great spot right now. Come out. Try to be fresh when you play three what will be tough road games against Eastern Conference teams.
Have you seen the backlash at the governor of the Mavericks, the son-in-law of the Adelsons? And imagine how he got that job.
Oh yeah.
And now with his criticism, backhanded criticism, after the deal was made at Luka, basically called him a big lazy slob.
Yeah.
And now today, all the former players that make up all the hot take analyst shows, they're going in on that guy saying, Dallas won't be able to get free agents in the future, because how they treated Luka on the way out. I know where they're coming from, but here's how Dallas will get free agents in the future.
Money.
They offer more money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think, you hear that a lot where it's, you didn't have your players back and people are going to – it's the easy thing to say.
You can't criticize them.
No, you can't.
If they had criticized Luka publicly 6 weeks ago, why are you undermining the locker room?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Why are you destroying his confidence? You criticize him on the way out when you're not going to get any free agents. Those former players in the commentary analyst roles – you are to never criticize them.
Yeah, I mean, and we hear it all the time, no matter the sport, no matter the player. And I agree with the criticism. I don't know if I agree with, you'll never get free agents.
Brian, great take. No matter the sport.
Oh, no matter the sport.
They're not going to do it.
I understand where it's coming from, right? I mean, these were guys and girls that were in the locker room. They were players. They were in this grind, and so when they get out of it, they don't want anybody going at the players like that. And
well, couldn't one differentiate themselves from that and kind of stand apart from the rote mentality?
They could, but
do we all just have to sing off the same song sheet?
Pretty much. In that sense, it feels like they all do, and it feels like it's not going to change. But no.
I think that's what made Johnny Miller entertaining, and I think it's what it makes Brandel Chamblee so polarizing on Golf Channel. Is that he won't he won't just say what everybody expects him to.
Yeah, no, you're right. And those you said it. Those guys that do that, they separate themselves. We look at them as polarizing or different.
I'll contend that it's one of the many things that has made the phenomenon of Paul Feinbaum.
Yeah. I think you're right.
He won't always adhere to the code.
Yeah, I think you're on something there.
But I mean, this afternoon, the son-in-law and the imagery of that,
of course,
crushes that guy.
Yes, of course.
And fairly new and replacing Mr. Groovy Cool Dude,
That's right.
Cuban.
Yep.
And
lot
they
working
were
against
just
him.
killing him.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
A lot working against him. I guess an easy target in that sense. But, I agree with the criticism. I think if you're bad-mouthing Luka, you're crazy because he's still a top,
And then inside
player.
the analyst club, whether it's NFL or football, if you were quarterback offensive player, it's always the defense's fault.
Yep.
And flip-flop.
Yep.
In baseball, if you're the pitcher, it's the fielders.
Yep.
And vice versa. In basketball, kind of bigger player against smaller player.
That's right. Yeah, it's a good point because they play that position and so they know it really well.
And the coaches do the same thing.
Yeah,
the coaches aren't going to
sure.
crack on the fraternity.
Right, but it's very easy, like you said, not to go at your own and to go at the complete opposite side of it, but it feels like a lot of people fall into that trap, really, any chance they get. But I have not seen that today, but that does not surprise me, I guess I should say. We've got a really busy show today and a short show, so let me set it up before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, Pat Smith from Jocks down in Birmingham. He'll join us, when is the last time that we have not had a football-focused segment with Pat Smith? We're getting it today because the Iron Bowl on the hardwood this Saturday.
Right, we're going to go 12, 13 minutes with Pat. I think we're wasting time talking any football with him. Isn't that rare?
Honestly.
Also, time of year.
Time of year, sure.
But
I think if this was Nick Saban, Dynasty, Alabama, we'd be saying, hey, I know, let's talk basketball for 8-9 minutes, but off-season football, how are the boys
And I'm going to ask him, is it allowed at Jocks to talk that much basketball?
It's weird. It is very, even hearing you say that is weird because it is just so football focused down there. But we'll talk a lot of basketball with Pat in our next segment. 3:45, we'll talk more about the Grizzlies, their win last night over Phoenix, also their game tonight against the Clippers on the road. Another late night game, 9:30 start. 4 o'clock, Blake Lovell from the Southeastern 16 will join us to talk some SEC college basketball. Good night of SEC play last night. Even more games tonight, including that Ole Miss South Carolina game. We'll definitely ask him about that. 4:30, we'll talk NBA. As Brett mentioned it, every single team giving it a go tonight. Only 4 games last night, 5 games tomorrow night, and then we'll be to the All-Star break. So a lot of NBA to get to at 4:30. 4:45, we'll get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, Kevin Sweeney from Sports Illustrated will join us to talk college basketball. A little shorter segment with Kevin today, probably 18, 19 minutes. We'll get out with him, get to an early crunch time because we got to get out of here early. 5:30, Ole Miss, South Carolina pregame, and then the tip-off at 6 o'clock. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. The preseason pool and patio sales going on right now at Family Leisure. Spring is just around the corner, and it's time to start thinking about your backyard entertainment. 2024 pricing on all above pools and patio furniture. Beat the rush and get in line for your pool installation right now. Patio furniture is up to 70% off to make room for the incoming inventory. Play gyms, trampolines, and outdoor kitchens, they're also on sale. Spas up to $3,000 off. And mention this ad and get $250 gift card with a pool, spa, or patio furniture purchase. So head out to Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40.
Produced by Landon Schmidt, we are Sportstime, and we're with you today until 5:30. He's Brian, I'm Brett, and we want you to be a part of our show by texting or calling 901-360-8255. That's the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk line. All our guests will appear on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. As Bryant mentioned, we are always from our Family Leisure Studios. Thank you so much to Billy and Lindsay and the whole team at Family Leisure. And this hour every day is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Great offers on all 2025 models and always special leasing options. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Call them at 901-334-9673, but stop by the only Lexus dealership in Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and you'll be driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and they make for the safe luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day, it's the Memphis Grizzlies, a 119-112 win over the Suns. It felt easier than that final score reflects. A much better second half for Phoenix, but Grizzlies in complete control in the first half, able to hang on, do just enough in the second half to secure a big road victory. You look at who showed up. Ja Morant. I felt like there was a lot of talk, especially early this week, last week, after some of these big games, especially against OKC, talking about how Ja Morant has to show up, has to do a better job in big games. And he was really good last night. 26 points, did struggle with that three-point shot, but most of the Grizzlies struggled with the three-point shot last night. The Grizzlies 12 for 39, 30% from three. But Ja Morant led the team with 26 points. Desmond Bane, another good game for him. That's back-to-back games now since he's returned from injury with 20 points. Jaren Jackson with 17. And then your bench, you got really good production. Brandon Clark and Santi Aldama both came in, had a big impact. Brandon Clark, 14 points, 7 rebounds. 5 of those rebounds, offensive rebounds, giving the Grizzlies second chance opportunities. 20 offensive rebounds for the Grizzlies. That was a big problem in that Thunder game, was giving up offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities to that really talented Thunder team. Last night only gave up 7 offensive rebounds to the Suns. We mentioned it. Kevin Durant finishes with 34, only needed 28 to get to 30,000, so he got there, made it look easy. Fun to see that. I know he got in the third quarter. I believe they recognized it in the arena between the third and fourth quarter. At the end of the game, you saw Ja Morant hold the ball and hand it to Kevin Durant with his 30,000th ball. So really fun scene last night all around, and the Grizzlies now have to turn around tonight, play the Grizzlies on the road in their last game before the All-Star break. Just saw this put out about the top of the hour. Ja Morant and Vince Williams Jr. both listed as questionable for tonight. Ja Morant, right knee soreness. Vince Williams Jr., left knee soreness. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if both those guys are able to go tonight.
Well, I think that's some of the maintenance that we first were clued in on yesterday by the renowned Dr. Matt Enfield.
That's right, yes. Dr. Matt Enfield.
Right. Plays a doctor on the radio on
does.
Tuesdays with us, and he nailed it. It's unanimous. That's my top story as well. Grizzlies win last night in Phoenix. Now 36-17, 19 over 500, and one more game before the much-needed All-Star break. The 2 rookies are spent. Luke Kennard hadn't played well in weeks, but still they handled the talented but dysfunctional Suns last night. Tonight's the first game ever for the Grizzlies at Intuit Dome, the newest, splashiest arena in the NBA. Ballmer's great place for his team to play in. 3 straight road wins for the Grizzlies, 7-1 this year on second nights of back-to-back games, and trying to get to 20 over 500 for the first time since game number 82 at the end of the 23 season when they entered the playoffs 51-31.
That's ridiculous.
Seems like a long time ago.
Seems like an eternity ago.
You think everything the Grizzlies have been through since the last time they were 20 over 500.
It's been rocky.
Lucky to be where we are because of it.
Very lucky, but it feels good. I mean, watching these games has been a lot of fun, more than what it was last year.
Not top story of the day.
My not top story of the day, we talked yesterday about how exciting last night's slate of college basketball was, and it really lived up to the hype. We talked about the 2 teams we're going to talk about in our next segment, Auburn and Alabama. They'll meet on Saturday, 1 versus 2, but before before that, both tricky road games. Auburn on the road against Vanderbilt, Alabama on the road against Texas. Alabama made it look easy. 49 points in the first half. They go on to a 103-80 victory. Auburn, on the other hand, jumped out to 15-0 lead out of the gate, but then let Vanderbilt get back. Vanderbilt and Auburn went back and forth early in the second half. Auburn able to pull away, win that one 80-68. Florida gets a big win on the road over Mississippi State, but one of their best players, Alex Condon, gets injured in the first minute of action, went down, not sure how long he's expected to be out. Kentucky beats Tennessee at home. Outside of the SEC, Indiana, who's been a train wreck for most of the season, they pull a massive upset, 71-67 over Michigan State. That's now Michigan State's third loss in Big Ten play. It felt like, 2 weeks ago we were talking about this team undefeated since they lost to the Tigers in November. Now 3 losses in conference play. UConn, big road win over Creighton, 70-66. Really fun night of basketball last night.
My not top story, second day in a row since the big win on Sunday, that I hear so much discussion around Jalen Hurts. He played a great game Sunday and was rewarded MVP of Super Bowl 59 properly for that. But hearing the hot take artistry, nobody in their right mind would take Jalen Hurts right now over Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, or Jason Allen. But you're hearing a lot of conversation of latest being the greatest. I'm hearing so many of them say that the Super Bowl separates winners from pretenders, from posers, that the Super Bowl pressure is what you're really defined by. I wonder at LSU, do they teach listening? I know they teach talking because Ryan Clark and Big Swagoo do a lot of talking, but did they hear themselves from last week about Eli Manning in Super Bowls? I know they hate Eli Manning. They hate him properly from the Ole Miss LSU rivalry in their big game in 2004. I know that. They know that. I wish they'd say that.
They'll never say that. But you're right. It's weird how things change in really less than a week, from last Thursday to now Monday and Tuesday.
We got tape.
Yeah, no, we do. Nowadays very easy to pull up the tape of what these people said just a week ago. But that'll do it for top and not top story of the day. Let's go ahead and get to our first break. When we return, we're heading down to Birmingham, talk about the Iron Bowl on the hardwood with Pat Smith.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-445-6363. That's 1-800-445-6363.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Happy Valentine's Day from Gould's, where love is in the air and so is a sweet deal. Buy $200 or more in Gould's gift cards and get 15% off. Treat your Valentine or Valentine's to a little pampering, relaxation, and style from Gould's. This Valentine's special offer is available online and in store in Gould's February 7th through the 14th. Just go to GouldSalonSpa.com and use code LOVE25 to purchase online. Gould's Salon Spa, wearing red since 1932.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with delicious ingredients and no artificial trans fats, no
Whoa, we got some playing.
or artificial artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and
I heard it clearly through me.
delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. A couple of accidents in their clearing stages. Still dodging a few rain showers out here. Just depends on what part of town you're in as it cranks up right on schedule through Midtown, 240 South and South Parkway, I-40. It's moving at the moment over here westbound at Danny Thomas as you continue across the I-40 bridge on over into West Memphis. If your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, don't worry. Lawn Solutions can help you. 30 years experience, Lawn Solutions. Give them a call, 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now back to Sports Time. Sports 56. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Cars. Here are your hosts, Brett Stark Sports Movie and Brian Davis.
We're back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios. And joining us now from Jocks down in Birmingham, Pat Smith joins us. Pat, thanks so much for joining us. It feels weird. We're going to talk a lot of basketball here. It feels weird having you on to talk primarily basketball instead of football. What has been the last couple of months down in Birmingham on Jocks when it comes to how well both Alabama and Auburn have been playing in basketball?
Well, first off, guys, always a pleasure to be on in the beloved city of Memphis. It basically because Auburn didn't go to a bowl game and Alabama got embarrassed by Michigan in a bowl game that we pivoted really quick to the basketball. So we are now the basketball capital of the world instead of the college football capital of the world. Yes.
That's what the sign always said at Legion Field, the basketball capital of the world.
Yes. Well, they changed it, Brett. City Council resolution about a week ago. So they have painted that on the torn down upper deck of Legion Field. It's been great, guys. And this weekend, the Iron Bowl of basketball. I mean, it's fantastic. Having two of the best teams in all of college basketball duke it out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How impossible are tickets for Saturday?
It's pretty crazy. It's interesting because you got this game at Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa. The final regular season game on a Saturday is at Neville Arena. And those tickets are going for about $500-$600 at the end of the season. Meanwhile, the games this weekend in Tuscaloosa, now there's a few more tickets available because Neville Arena seats about 9,000-10,000 if the fire marshal's looking the other way. Meanwhile, Coleman Coliseum is going to seat 13 to 14. So there's a few more ticket opportunities, but you can get in for about $300 plus for a regular season basketball game in the state of Alabama. That is unheard of.
What do you think the fair end of the year expectations for these two teams? What are they?
Well, it's interesting that you said that, Brett, because we were talking about that just a couple of days ago, and we all agree on the show because, listen, it is so daggum difficult to get to a Final Four. So many things have to happen. So even though you've got the talent that you should be a Final Four caliber type team, weird things happen in the NCAA tournament. For us, and what we talk about on the show, both of these teams, they better be Elite Eight, okay? They have the talent, they have the capability to make a deep run, if not win the national championship. But the bare minimum, you've got to get to the Elite Eight. So that's kind of the bar that we have set. Not that anybody's going to get fired if they don't get there. It would be terribly disappointing. But that's where we're starting at on our show. Should be a cakewalk to the Sweet 16, and then at that point in time, you should be able to get to one more round, at least to the Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm. You look at this Auburn team, I mean, Janai Broome has been one of the best players in all of college basketball and is getting recognition for a lot of postseason awards for good reason, but there was a little bit of a stretch there where they had to do it without Janai Broome. I think it was 2 or 3, 4 games that they were without him in conference play. They were able to make it through that. How deep is this team? I mean, talk about the depth of this team and how they're able to play this extremely tough SEC schedule and get through it. Now only 1 loss, doing it with and without one of the best players in college basketball.
Yeah, it's a great point, Brian. And you think about this Auburn basketball team. Like, when he was out and then he came back, he admitted he was about 70%. And listen, last night watching the Vanderbilt game, you could tell he was laboring a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the 3rd or 4th player in scoring last night for Auburn. Some Auburn fans were like, you know what, maybe we should let him rest for a couple weeks. And then, and because we got a bigger prize, at the end of the year in the NCAA basketball tournament, because he's out there and he's still one of the best players in America, but you could tell that there's something with him. But having guys like Chaney Johnson, who played at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, who transferred to Auburn, and he took that game over last night. When it looked like Vanderbilt was ready to put the hammer down and pull off the upset, all of a sudden Chaney Johnson becomes, Janai Broome too. I mean, just everything that he was doing down on the post was incredible. Denver Jones led the team in scoring last night. And I bring those names up because maybe your general audience don't recognize those names, but that's why their roster is so deep and they're able to do what they've been able to do, is because guys like that are able to be the headliners, so to speak, with a big game in the SEC. They're not as deep as Alabama. Alabama's got one of the deepest rosters, if not in all of college basketball. But Auburn, the way they substitute and the way that Bruce Pearl does a magnificent job of getting the most out of people, that's why Auburn is as good as they are this year.
Pat, I'm with you. I think it's not fair to put on anyone Final Four or here comes the criticism. Right. Even for the big brands, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, those brands, I don't think it's fair to do them like it. What UConn's done the last 2 years is really remarkable. Whether you like the coach or not, you have to give them a ton of credit. And you have to give that program a ton of credit to win national championships with 3 different coaches. But for the league itself, with everybody anointing the SEC as the league this year in basketball, 1 or 2 have to get there. Maybe not Bama or Auburn, but somebody from the SEC and maybe one other from the SEC. I think that should be expected, or this has been all for funsies.
Yeah, it's all for nothing. I mean, you don't beat your chest. You're not Greg Sankey getting on top of the SEC headquarters in downtown Birmingham screaming from a megaphone that the SEC is absolutely the best conference in college basketball unless you have some hardware at the end of the year. It is great what they've been able to do. It's wonderful to have Joe Lunardi every single night scream that the SEC is going to get 13 teams, and if Arkansas plays their cards right, they can have 14. But at the end of the day, if you have all of those teams playing in the tournament and everybody's spread out around the country, and you don't have at least 1 or 2 teams making it to the Final Four, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. So the season can be all it can be right now, but at the end of it, you better have somebody putting some big fancy pennants at the top of their rafters, or it's not going to be worth the wait.
And that's where football really separated itself and became the league. It had hardware. It had trophies.
Yep, no doubt. And so, but listen, this league, and Brett, you've been around this league a long time like I have never seen it this way. I mean, it is absolutely as brutal as the SEC West used to be in football. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is murderer's row while you were trying. If you take a look at Alabama's remaining schedule, it is sick. You're talking about Auburn twice. You got to go to Mizzou. You got Kentucky at home. You got to go to Florida. I mean, it just keeps on and on and on, and that is every single game you're playing an NCAA tournament team, which, again, so far it's worked out well for Alabama and Auburn. You just hope for both of those schools' sake that they don't hit a bump here, because you want to go into the postseason with that momentum. You just hate to see them lose, 3 out of 4 or something like that to put themselves in a bad mindset going into the big dance.
Pat, I'm with you. I think that 1 through 16, or you do it the other direction, you go 16 down, it's really tough. And I know you and Landrum and Molly and Conrad don't need me programming your show tomorrow, but at some point the rest of the week or the rest of February, do this exercise. I did it myself last night. Brian, I hadn't included him yet on this. You get the 16 SEC coaches right now, and you compare them to, and I know Mizzou, A&M, and Oklahoma and Texas weren't in the league then, but you compare their head coaches then and the 12 SEC head coaches to 1995. These teams are better. The coaching was better then.
Listen, what's so amazing about this league, and I was listening to a podcast up on Tobacco Road, and the reason why I've been paying attention to Tobacco Road is because there's a strong indication that North Carolina might make a switch and get rid of Hubert Davis. If that happens, the word on the street in the college basketball world is that Nate Oates is going to be the top candidate that they are going to try to come get. Now, he has an $18 million buyout, okay, which is crazy for a college basketball coach, but that's his buyout. So North Carolina would really have to come off the coin. But as I was listening to this podcast, they were talking about what has happened to the ACC. The ACC, if you take a look in the analytics, they're awful when it comes to quad one games. Like, for instance, Auburn is 13-2 in quad one games. North Carolina is 1-10.
Yeah.
And you can go down the whole league. The ACC is a shell of its former self. So this podcast was talking about, okay, so what has happened to the ACC and why has the SEC now become the top basketball conference in college basketball? Well, reason why? Take a look at the coaching roster. Take a look at the NIL. Supposedly Alabama's paying $6 to $7 million for that basketball roster that they have this year. All of a sudden, Bama is investing in basketball. You're paying your basketball coach. He's one of the top 3 highest paid coaches in all of college basketball. Look what Bruce Pearl is making. Look what Chris Beard is doing over in Oxford. Buzz Williams in College Station. It goes on and on and on. This roster of talent that you have and the money being invested, it is now starting to pay off just like it did back when the SEC went on their great football run.
Yeah.
It is. Pat, I have said on your show, I have said on our show without you, I'm now going to say on our show with you, nobody, no station in the country listens to and programs better for their listeners than WJOX in Birmingham. Y'all know what totes the freight, and it's college football. So how hard has it been for you and for your audience to go this basketball heavy?
Well, as I said, because the season was disappointing for both major fan bases that we have in our Birmingham metropolitan and the state of Alabama, it's been a pretty easy, I guess, pivot, so to speak. Both fan bases realize that this is something special. Alabama fans experienced it last year. Auburn fans experienced it, obviously, back in Minneapolis a couple years ago when they got to the Final Four. They understand that this is a very special thing that we are seeing. And so they're taking an attitude of like, you know what, we need to kind of sit back and smell the roses and enjoy this. Football, when spring practice begins, we will absolutely be back right up knee-deep into it. But for right now, it really is, guys. I mean, Ryan Grubb comes to Alabama as the new offensive coordinator because obviously Alabama had some issues with their offense this year at times. And that was like a one-segment conversation. Everything else turned into basketball. So we're kind of learning ourselves about this new age and new era of SEC basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you got to enjoy it while you got it, and certainly 1 versus number 2. You definitely got to talk a ton about that. On the Alabama side, you look at Mark Sears. I mean, clearly their best player, but you know there's been a couple games this year where he has really struggled, most notably the game a few weeks ago against LSU where he only plays 17 minutes and sits the entire second half. He looked dejected on the sideline or on the bench during that game, but since then, averaging about 17 points per game, shooting about 46% from the field, about 42% from 3. What did you make of that decision, that game, and then how he's responded since then?
Well, one thing's for sure about Nate Oates. Covering Nate Oates is not afraid to pull the trigger and to get a point across. He did it with Sears that night. He did it with Amori. If you are not pulling your weight, whether it's on the defensive end, whether it's you turning the ball over, whatever the case may be, you got to do better. Because this roster is so deep, guys, that they can afford to sit, I guess, on paper, your top player, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because they've got other dudes that can step up to do it. Now, since that time, you could tell that there's been a fire lit up underneath him. Bama's issue is they lead the nation in scoring. Their biggest, and you guys saw it when Ole Miss knocked them off in Coleman Coliseum. There have been games and times this year, and it almost happened at Arkansas the other night, that Alabama will play about, 32 minutes of the most incredible basketball you've ever seen. But then there's an 8-minute stretch there where they turn the ball over. They can't hit water falling out of the boat. A lot of inconsistency, and that's what drives. Like, they had 17 turnovers yesterday against Texas. They had 9 in the first half. And Mark Sears was the culprit for the majority of those. That is what, when you get into tournament basketball, and we've seen it a million times, it takes just one of those games to completely derail the entire season and throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what scares a lot of Alabama fans about this particular team.
Yeah.
And Pat, for Alabama, for everybody in the SEC, when you go to those pod sites, the arena is going to turn on you. They're going to pull against you, and you it's just human nature to get a little bit tighter.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and that's a great point, Brett. Because listen, last year you had Alabama and Auburn both, and UAB. They all ended up out west. I mean, they were playing in Spokane, Washington last year. And then, of course, Bama had to stay on the West Coast. And, all of a sudden, if any team that is considered a Cinderella, they are going to have the majority of that arena pulling against you. So that's a great point. And not to mention the fact that instead of playing in like a 10,000-seat Neville Arena with a different depth perception, now you're playing in a 25,000-seat possible NBA arena that's got completely different sight lines. That all of a sudden, that could be problematic based on the fact that you just played 30-some-odd games in smaller venues.
Two best chants right now in college sports. It's SEC for the SEC team when they win, and it's SEC in derision when somebody beats the SEC.
There's no doubt about it. So, and listen, it's great. I love it because it is so daggum entertaining every single Tuesday and Wednesday and Saturday when SEC basketball tips off. It doesn't matter who it is. It really does remind me of the glory days of the SEC West when, man, it didn't matter who was playing. It was just going to be a gauntlet, and that's what it is in basketball.
And you're an old basketball guy at heart. What class did you take with Andy Kennedy at UAB?
I took history. Me and Andy were college teammates there in the old history department at UAB, and I always like to tell the story. He really never did, but I always say that I helped him get through school because he cheated off of me. But actually, Andy was extremely smart. If I was smart, I would have been cheating off of him. But he was outstanding student at UAB, and needless to say, he never saw a 3-point shot he did not like. I promise.
My basketball classmate at Fayetteville, Joe Klein. I bet we had 5 classes together, and Joe was really smart, and I mean never missed.
Wow.
Oh, listen, I'm telling you. And of course, you listeners, older listeners to your show in Memphis, remember Gene Bartow, the father of UAB's basketball program, who took Memphis to the Final Four. Memphis was a very special place. Him and Larry Finch, obviously, very close over the years. And, of course, Coach Bartow, we lost him a few years back. But Gene Bartow was Andy's coach in college, and you would be at a game, and I'm not lying when I say this, Andy would take one bounce from midcourt, and he was getting ready to fire up a shot. And to this day, I can still hear Gene Bartow jumping off, going, "No, Andy, no!" Just going crazy, because that's the kind of guy Andy was, man. He did not see a shot that he did not like. And, man, most of the time, he was dead on. Just incredible accuracy for that guy from Louisville, Mississippi.
That's hilarious. Well, Pat, as always, so much fun chatting with you. Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely, boys. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Pat Smith joining us to talk the Iron Bowl on the hardwood. Saturday is going to be a really fun one. Number 1 versus number 2. A lot of people are going to be talking about that as we build up to Saturday. But let's go ahead and get to a break. When we come back, we've got to talk more about the Grizzlies, their win last night over Phoenix, what they've got tonight against the Clippers. That's next on Sports Time.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Hey y'all, it's the Mid-South Sports Boat and RV Show, February 14th to the 16th at the Anchor Center. Come buy your new boat and make some memories at the lake this summer with family and friends. Premier dealers showcasing the newest steamboats, pontoons, fishing boats with huge show specials. Enter for your chance to win daily door prizes. It's all at the Mid-South Sports Boat and RV Show, February 14th to the 16th. For more info, go to MemphisBoatShow.com. That's MemphisBoatShow.com.
Progressive presents Employee Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Lucky Larry's Landscaping, Larry! Larry saved his business money with a quick commercial auto quote from Progressive. Does it help he's his own marketing manager, accountant, executive assistant, and never been late? Technically, yes, but saving really put him over the edge. So, Larry, give Larry a round of applause. Be your own Larry. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises. Just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Now, back to Sports Time. Sports with This hour is brought to you by Lexus Service. Here are your hosts, Brent Stark Sports Movie and Brian Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you, and got to talk more about the Grizzlies. Last night, winners over the Phoenix Suns, 119 to 112. Tonight, back-to-back on the road, this time against the L.A. Clippers. Last game before they get to All-Star break, and you look up, Grizzlies have been rolling in a really good opportunity now with the win last night to be rolling again as they enter the All-Star break.
Do you think the Grizzlies on the NBA shows get quite the publicity of a team 19 over 500 and in second place?
Probably not.
Loaded question.
Probably not.
And I don't think that's us being poor, pitiful us. Do you?
I don't think so. No.
Because in the last week, it's easy the Lakers tsunami, and if Dallas got everything working right with Anthony Davis and how horrific that is now started, but Houston's been a bigger story all year. They're 3 games back of the Grizzlies now in the loss column.
Yeah, and they're really struggling right now. Really, since losing to the Grizzlies,
Golden State's always
really
a story.
Sure, and obviously now with Jimmy Butler, they're going to be even more of a story.
There's one way to change that.
What is it?
Postseason success.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Grizzlies.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean,
look at Jalen Hurts today compared to last week.
Yeah, when it felt like the Grizzlies.
That was the ultimate success,
of course. But it felt like the Grizzlies were getting that a couple years ago, and it felt like it was starting to build, and then obviously all the injuries.
We used to be the the one Kendrick Perkins loved.
Yes, whoa, absolutely. I mean, it felt like every day Kendrick Perkins was either bringing the Grizzlies up or defending the Grizzlies or something.
He was all but waving a growl towel a few years ago.
Should have sent him one to wave around on all the shows. But no, I mean, then obviously last year happened, and so I think you're right. If the Grizzlies go and they're in the playoffs and they're the 2 seed and they make some noise, then yeah, I think next year they'll be right back to all of these NBA shows finding time to talk about them.
When the great TNT crew does a team that's gone fishing, if you're not that team, then they're going to keep talking about you.
Exactly. So, and right now, Grizzlies have put themselves in a great spot to be a big-time factor in the playoffs and to be around in the playoffs. Right now sitting at number 2, and obviously still a lot of work to do after the All-Star break. But, it feels a lot better to be a team like the Grizzlies getting into the All-Star break than a team like the Suns. You look at those 2 teams last night that played each other, the trajectory they're going. Yeah. I mean, Grizzlies love to get to All-Star break. Hey, let's regroup. Let's relax a little bit. Let's get back out there and keep making noise. Phoenix on the other side are going, we got to put the fires out with All-Star break and get these guys to figure things out if we're going to try to make a run.
There's only a couple teams I would trade with on that. Who would you rather be? I'd rather be the Grizzlies than the Clippers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Oklahoma City's roster's better.
Of course, yeah. I'd trade with Thunder. But yeah, when you're
Denver because of Jokic.
Of course, because of Jokic. But I mean, when you look at this West, and we always talk about how loaded the West is and how tough the West is, when you're the number 2 seed, no, there's not many teams that you would want to trade with. Certainly the team in front of you.
Lakers because of LeBron and now Luka. Yeah.
A couple teams behind you, but
that's about it.
There's not much. There's not much at all.
If the playoffs started tonight, they don't. It would be 2 seed Memphis if they got through the play-in against 7 seed Minnesota. If it falls out like that, do you know after that 2 weeks of those games how we're going to have to? We're just sports-wise going to be made to sports hate Anthony Edwards.
Of course. I mean, and that is. Feels like the last time, the Grizzlies.
Well, with Patrick Beverly the last time.
Oh,
and
he
was easy to just lock.
Beverly was very easy, but it feels like you see Minnesota again in the playoffs. It feels like maybe something building there. 2 great young point guards. And
that's how rivalries are made.
That's how rivalries
the
start.
jawing will be heavy.
It will be,
and maybe we won't have the glue lady gluing herself.
And that's the thing you got to worry about. Where has she been? How's she doing? And will she make a return with these if these 2 teams?
And I know how to break her from it.
Well,
after she glues herself to the floor in the permanent glue, you yank her up from it, and whatever rips.
It'd be easy. Man, that was a time, Brett.
That was a time, wasn't it?
Those games with her.
And Patrick Beverly got in her head. I said it then, I say it now. He all but got to us.
He did. No, I mean, he definitely did. No question about it, I don't think. He was all over the place. Good for him. That's how he made his living, was, getting into opponents' heads, and it worked.
If they handcuff themselves to the stanchion, rip it loose from the stanchion.
Yeah. I say leave him there. Just play around them. Make them sit there.
Or tie them up and make them sit there and watch.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a better idea.
Hey, it's not bad. I don't know.
And everybody just walk by and go, "You fool."
Exactly. Yeah, just publicly shame them after.
And whatever your cause is, I'm opposed to it.
Yes. Yeah, you're interrupting the game. I'm opposed to it. But, I mean, I think Minnesota and Memphis would be a great series. Anthony Edwards, he knows how to talk. He knows how to do the talk and walk the walk. So that would be a lot of fun. But obviously, a lot of games left to be played. We'll see what happens tonight. Grizzlies and Clippers later tonight. Another late one, 9:30 tonight. Let's go ahead and wrap up this hour, get to a break. When we come back, we're talking more college basketball because Blake Lovell from the Southeastern 16, he joins us next.
Designed to maximize your workouts and minimize your time. An exercise coach gives you personal workouts like one-on-one with a trainer. Check out the exercise coach at exercisecoach.com/Lakeland or exercisecoach.com/Lakeland. Age, injury, or knowledge.
$1 million in personal and business credit. That's exactly what Ray Reynolds can do for you. I'm talking about protecting your family and building your business with $100,000 in personal or business cash credit. And Ray can help you rebuild your credit score to 750. Ray Reynolds isn't just any expert. He helped the security chief of TRW that became Experian, one of the most trusted credit bureaus. If you're looking to get your finances on track, Ray is the man you should call for a 750 credit score. Call Ray at 800-427-5991. 800-427-5991. Join his live webinars and attend his weekly workshops to learn the insider strategies for hitting your personal and business goals. Ready for a 750 credit score and your first $100,000 in credit? Call Ray Reynolds now at 800-427-5991. That's 800-427-5991.
Breakfast is what you make it, and maybe, just maybe once in a while, you want your breakfast to have a little kick to it. That's why Sunrise doesn't just feature a full bar. They feature drinks that scream, have me with breakfast. Ever had a breakfast shot? They mix Jameson with butterscotch schnapps, then add an OJ chaser and a bite of bacon, and you'll feel like you've just had a taste of pancakes, but with alcohol. Another Sunrise specialty is the wake-up call, vodka, Red Bull, and lime, and you can keep the can. As always, the food at Sunrise is unrivaled, and they have a full bar.
Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. I'm here at Town Village Audubon Park interviewing a new resident, Carolyn. Share with us why you chose Town Village.
Well, if your parents or special friends need to make that big move, let me share with you my experience. It was tough for me to leave home, but then I discovered Town Village. I would like to highly recommend Town Village to you and your loved ones. After looking at all the amenities and meeting all the people and the staff, I was hooked. From restaurant, bistro, 3 meals per day, housekeeping, transportation, security, health care, physical therapy, exercise room, and even a heated pool and spa. Come see us and make your new home in Town Village.
Visit us and call Daniel at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home, Town Village.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis, with Dave Woloshin, weekday mornings from 10 to 11. Sports Time on Sports 56 and 95 FM. Once again, Brett Roserby and Ryan Davis.
Welcome back in Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you as we start our second hour, and joining us now to talk some college basketball, SEC college basketball, Blake Lovell from the Southeastern 16 joins us now. Blake, a lot of hoops to talk about, but let's start with the big game that everyone is looking forward to Saturday, 1 versus 2, the Iron Bowl on the hardwood. Auburn versus Alabama, both teams with, I thought, tough road trap games last night. Auburn on the road against Vanderbilt, Alabama on the road against Texas. They get through both of them. What are you expecting to see Saturday night in this heavyweight battle?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, isn't it? I mean, again, we've never seen this before in the SEC, a 1 versus 2, and what do you know, just happens to be Auburn and Alabama, the two programs that, 10 years ago, if you'd have said that, anyone would have thought we're talking about a different sport. Mm-hmm. But not the case now because, these two teams are, they're the two best in the country, and there's just no real doubt in my mind, I think, right now. I mean, I think Florida would have an argument to maybe, burst a bubble there, but it's one of those three teams as your top team in college basketball. And so I think when you just look at it from a matchup perspective, like you said, I thought it was interesting that both seemingly, got through what were tricky road games, and I think, kind of focused performances has really been the sort of the story for these two teams. But really what's been the story, too, is they're the two best offensive teams in the country. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's what's interesting to me about this, because I don't think Auburn and Alabama get enough credit for their defense. Auburn's better statistically. I think Alabama's defense is vastly improved from what it was last year when they made the Final Four run. And, they're just as good, if not better, offensively. So I think when you look at it from that standpoint, how these two coaches go about game planning on the defensive side, I think is the most interesting part here for Auburn. Shot selection, I think, can be a question at times with them. And then for Alabama, I think it's really just a matter of how do you slow them down from playing the game they want to play, because they pretty much made everybody else, except for maybe one or two teams this season, play their style. And so, yeah, that's just, I think the defensive game plans between Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates should be the biggest story here.
I really thought one of the two would slip out on the road last night, and they both really kind of cruised. I think both of those home teams last night, Vandy and Texas, now they're maybe in jeopardy. We've been talking these 12, 13, the unthinkable 14. I still think it's going to settle around 12, maybe not into the teens, and Vandy and Texas are going the wrong direction.
Yeah, I think there's 5 teams right now, and to me, 2 of these 5, I think 3 at best are getting in. And I think that's Vanderbilt, Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And the thing is, I don't know what combination of those 2 or 3 are going to get in, because I think it's just so kind of up in the air right now. And the problem for Vanderbilt is that of that group, they have the toughest schedule. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing, especially when you're a team right now that just needs to win games. And, I look at sort of the remaining schedule for them. They play at Tennessee on Saturday. They go to Kentucky after that, home against Ole Miss, then at A&M, home against Missouri, home against the surging Arkansas team, then at Georgia. I just don't know where Vandy's going to find a couple wins. And, again, that's, to me, no matter who you are of that group of 5 teams, my thought stays the same. You have to get to at least 7 regular season wins in the SEC. And, certainly when you look at it from the net perspective, Oklahoma and Arkansas are a little bit further behind at 3 and 7, whereas Vanderbilt's 5 and 6, Texas and Georgia are 4 and 8. But I think if you get to 7, then what happens, and we talked about it kind of, I think, last week a little bit, that expanded SEC tournament now gives you way more opportunity to where a Wednesday night win the past however many years was going to do absolutely nothing for you. Now, if you get a Wednesday night win, and let's say you do have a Texas versus Georgia as the 12-13 game, whoever wins that game is probably getting in the NCAA tournament, just because that's going to give them another quality win. So I don't think it's going to be 13. I think, again, at best of this group, you're maybe talking 3 teams. 3 of these teams are going to get left out. But again, I don't know what combination it's going to be, just based on the fact that these 5 teams kind of all have flaws. But man, when you're playing this league, you got a lot of opportunity with quality wins still to go over the next month or so.
And Blake, you look at everybody's remaining schedules, and they all look the same. They're brutal.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. Like you said, there's not a team on here of that group, Vanderbilt, Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, that I'm going to tell you with confidence that I think is going to go win at South Carolina. Just because, South Carolina's played really well at home. They might be 0-10, but I can't say with complete confidence that I think they're going to win that game. That just kind of shows you where it's at. So it really, LSU was a great example, right? There's no reason LSU shouldn't have won that game on Saturday against Ole Miss. But, Ole Miss found a way. They won the game. And so it doesn't matter who you're playing this season. I think, again, I've said many times, I think South Carolina's going to get someone. Maybe that's tonight against Ole Miss. I don't know. But, again, you can't really base it on the schedules necessarily, just because, like you said, Brett, they're pretty much all the same.
And Blake, Brian and I've talked about it a lot, and it's been discussed by everybody through the years. I think the sport where everything evens out the most is baseball. But basketball's pretty close, and home and away kind of separates it a little bit. But Ole Miss, they stole that game at LSU after losing the same kind of game against A&M. Now, to really back up Saturday for Ole Miss is winning tonight at South Carolina, that it hadn't been easy regardless of what the South Carolina record is. If Ole Miss wins tonight, everybody rightly talking about the game of the year in college basketball Saturday, and the game of all time in the state of Alabama is coming up Saturday. But a really big game in the history of the state of Mississippi is coming up Saturday as well with State and Ole Miss, and not the biggest game in the history of the state of Tennessee, but a real big one, Vandy and Tennessee Saturday.
Yeah, it's a big rivalry Saturday. There's no question, because like we said, the way these games, kind of the meaning that they hold just from a rivalry perspective, but also when you're looking at the NCAA tournament especially. And I think, like you said, that's where, Ole Miss really needs to win this game tonight, because that does set up a really interesting matchup, because I think Mississippi State, they're not in danger of being left out of the tournament by any means, but they are one of those teams right now that I think you're having a lot more
It's going the
questions
wrong
about.
way.
Yeah, they are not heading in the right direction. It's not often you see them get beat in back-to-back home games the way they have against Missouri and Florida. Now, again, granted, those are top-tier teams, but that probably shouldn't happen because, 3 weeks ago, we're looking at Mississippi State and saying, hey, don't look now, but, they might have, a 2-3 seed type resume by the end of the season if they're able to win the games you think they should win. Well, that's changed a little bit now. And, it's like, again, look at Vanderbilt, right? We can say that their path to get to the NCAA tournament is kind of hard to see right now based on, kind of the overall numbers and the schedule, but they've already beaten Tennessee once. And, again, after last night, I don't think anyone's looking at Tennessee and thinking, all right, that's a guaranteed win for the Vols. I don't care where that game's played, just because they're going to give you a few more reasons not to trust them, with specifically on the offensive side of the floor, I think. And so, yeah, it's setting up for, again, every single game slate now until the end of the regular season, I feel like is just significant because you are talking about a league that we've said, if you just look at the numbers historically, it's the best one we've ever seen. And we know once you get to March, no one cares about all the stuff you've done throughout the season. They want to see who's going to deliver in the NCAA tournament. And so how many teams you get there is a good start.
Blake, it's just where we're defined. I don't know who did it to the golfers, but you're defined by majors, whether that's fair or not. And now we just saw it in the college football playoff world. Advancing in that bracket is really the sign of if you had a good year or not. March is everything for coaches and for kind of your reputation.
Yeah, and that's what it's going to come down to. Like I said, the SEC historically one of the best non-conference performances ever, maybe the best non-conference performance ever. In league play, again, by the time we get to the end of the season, they're going to be the top-rated conference in the history of KenPom and every other statistical metric out there. But if let's say 4 teams advance beyond just the first weekend, then that's going to honestly feel like a little bit of a disappointment just because, you're looking at really just how good this league has been and how many teams you kind of have in this spot. And you may say, well, 4, that's still a lot, right, of the Sweet 16. But I think the SEC this year, you're going to want to aim higher. And you think that, and I say this, right, it's like Kentucky's a great example. Kentucky's sitting there right now, I think, in the 8th spot in the SEC. You're telling me that the 8th best team in the SEC has as many top 25 wins Kentucky has. Mm-hmm. Look at all the teams they've beaten, right? They've beaten Duke. They've beaten Florida. They've beaten Tennessee twice. They've beaten A&M. All those teams are ranked in the top 7 in the AP poll. And so it's like, yeah, we can pick apart Kentucky, but they're the 8th place team in the SEC with all those kind of wins. And so, that should be the expectation. I'm telling you, at least half the league should have the expectation that if we don't make it to the Sweet 16 and beyond, it's a disappointment.
Yeah. Blake, am I correct? Your Major League Baseball team, you're a Brave fan?
I am.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm not rubbing in, but look at the Braves. All that winning, and they have the 2 championships, 95 and 21, but all that winning, you want more, don't you?
Exactly. Like, hey, I love going back and watching some of the old, mid-'90s, late-'90s games on any of these, channels where they're playing the retro games. But I enjoy the game and watch it and like, hey, I remember they won that game. But then I'm always thinking as I'm watching, I'm like, well, I know what happened at the end of the season.
I know how
and it just doesn't have the same effect, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's different. Talking to Blake Lovell, he joins us every week to talk the SEC from the Southeastern 16. I know we usually stick to SEC with you, and I want to get back to that. I want to ask about Florida and more about Kentucky. But when you look, obviously, here locally, a lot of Memphis Tiger fans and what Penny Hardaway is doing with this team, how do you view the job Penny Hardaway has done this year and where this Tiger team is at right now?
Yeah, look, I think when you just talk about a team that, lost 1 game since, Christmas or a little before, I guess Mississippi State was the team that came in there and won that game. I don't know how you couldn't be sort of at least kind of interested to see where this thing goes over the next month because, it has been a good season. To be 20-4, I think that's a fine spot to be in. And like I said, if you just sort of combine their losses, sure. There's going to be the one like Arkansas State that stands out and such, but I think Brian Hodgson's done such a good job. With that program, we know. Yeah, he's great. Of course, coming from the Nate Oates chemistry there, and I think he's just a really good coach, and they're going to keep winning as long as he's there. And obviously the Temple game is going to stand out a little bit, but I feel like overall, yeah, I mean, if you're just talking upside here as we head into the NCAA tournament, certainly when you look at just the overall strength of the conference, that's something that's going to be factored in, and you sort of wonder about as you get into the tournament type settings, knowing that there just are not going to be many teams in there, as we know, based on the projections. And so I think, though, like if they're a team that winds up, in that top 4-5 seed, which I would be surprised probably if they don't at this point, as long as they, keep playing the way they've been playing, and you feel like, again, they've got some opportunities to win more games here down the stretch. But, yeah, I mean, I really like them just because, too, you just think about sort of the up and down nature, and we've talked about it over the years, right? Just, I mean, there has been that inconsistency at times and wondering kind of what is the ceiling for this team. But I think now when you look at it this year, I mean, it is a team that you feel like has a chance to make a run when you just look at the overall makeup of the roster. And I think the experience is what we keep talking about. I mean, think about it. Everybody makes their jokes about Auburn and all this. Like, Auburn's got guys out here, that might be 30 years old and all this other stuff. Like, of course they're not, but it's just the older teams in an era like this, like, man, you have a really good chance to sort of thrive. And, obviously you look at the lineup that they're sporting on a night in and night out basis there with this Memphis team. And I just think the experience is something that once you get into those tournament settings, that's a good thing to have. And so, yeah, I've been really impressed with what I've seen with that team this season. And, I mean, I think certainly the upside's there for them to make a run.
And after how last year ended and with a new boss, the pressure on Penny was extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something too, right? And we've seen other coaches in different spots do this before where it's like, hey, you kind of know that this is a really big season. And, you just never know how those are going to go. Again, we know all kind of the headlines coming into the season, and you're looking at the coaching staff and you're trying to figure out this and that and all those things. But, yeah, I mean, for them to kind of have the season they've had and, like I mentioned, I mean, if you're just going to look at the overall body of work, man, there's a lot of good wins on there. And if you look at some of the losses, sure, losing to Auburn, no shame in that. Like we said, at the time, Mississippi State was playing like a 2 seed. I mean, back then and around Christmas time. And so they've pretty much taken care of their business the way they should this season. And that's why I think, this is that stretch, though. And we talked about this, over the past couple of weeks with SEC teams for like, this is kind of that stage, though, where like this is crunch time and you have to win the games you're supposed to win if you want to feel like you're heading into the NCAA tournament, where, as we just mentioned, that's where you're going to be defined. Memphis they could win out the rest of the season here and finish 27-4 or whatever that number would be. But, hey, if you lose in the second round of the tournament, you know how you're going to be judged. But I think for Penny, it may be a little bit different just because, like you said, Brad, I mean, this was one where you talk about the pressure coming in. That they would deliver in sort of a scenario like that if they were to have a really strong finish here.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back to the SEC, you talked about Florida earlier, and team that's really rolling right now. A big win over the weekend against Auburn, picked up a win last night on the road against Mississippi State. And you look, the injuries that this team has gone through. Walter Clayton missed a handful of games with injury. Elijah Martin out right now, has missed the last 2 games with injuries. And then last night, at the very beginning of the game, I don't even know if they were a minute into the game, Alex Condon goes out. I mean, you could say those are Florida's 3 best players that have all in the last 2 or 3 weeks have had to miss time. How has Florida been able to get through this with all of those injuries? And I don't know the extent of Condon's injury. What will this look like if he has to miss time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've never seen a season like this in the SEC where I've seen so many teams lose key players to injury for however many games and then turn around and win games that are significant. It's happened everywhere, like Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, like all these top-tier teams, they've all done it this season. But I think it sort of speaks to the overall depth on the roster, and I think that's the thing with Florida, is they go win at Auburn without Elijah Martin. And then, like you said, they go basically just hand it to Mississippi State without Martin and Condon. And so, I mean, to me, it's like, how are they doing this? It's because you have a guy like Thomas Houck who has stepped up and just had some tremendous performances here recently. We've always talked about, like, Will Richard's been one of those guys that probably just hasn't gotten enough credit for what he's been able to bring to the table there. And then, of course, again, having a guy like Walter Clayton, who, I keep saying it, but it is just such a wild thing to think about. In any other season, you've probably got maybe 4 or 5 clear-cut SEC Player of the Year guys. Like, if this was whatever year, you're like, okay, Walter Clayton is probably the Player of the Year in the SEC. But there's just no chance for anybody else other than Broome to get it this year, just based on the historical season that he's having. And so I think that's the thing with Florida, is that they've kind of found that next gear offensively. But when we talked about Alabama earlier, how improved they are defensively, Florida, of those teams last year, and we always talked about that trio of teams, Alabama, Kentucky, and Florida. Florida's the team that's gotten the most better on the defensive side of the floor. And I think that is going to be the one thing. To me right now, if you had to tell me to rank the top 3 national championship contenders, again, I don't even know what order I'd rank them in, but I'd put Florida in that category because I think they're that good. And I think at full strength, having everybody healthy, I'm not sure there are many teams out there, maybe more than 2, that I think can beat them. Just because in that kind of setting, when you get in tournament time, to me, they've got all the ingredients you need to win those kind of games. And people kind of still pick on, their non-conference schedule wasn't Alabama's, wasn't Auburn or anything like that. But I've seen the way this team's played. And outside of one little hiccup, which was the game at Tennessee, where that was just one of the weirdest games I've ever seen, for Tennessee to win that game by 20 without 2 of their best players, Florida has been about as consistent as anybody else in the country, not named Auburn. So, yeah, I think the Gators are national championship good.
With the pressure building with every passing week leading into Selection Sunday, those games, we know how intense they are. Across college basketball, Blake, who's the one coach that you just love, that he's addicted to the pressure? He wants it. He eats it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Who is that one coach that you know it's not going to crack him?
Oh, that's a great question. It might be Rick Pitino.
No doubt about it. Ding, ding, ding,
honestly,
that is it. No doubt about it, Blake.
I think that's it. That's the guy who I would put probably at the top, just because, again, we talk about teams
addicted to it. He has to have it drip IV in both arms.
I tell you, and other than him or maybe, Hurley, I don't know that there's maybe even a close third in terms of just the way those guys are built. And, and that's, I said this the other day, I'm like, I hope one of these SEC teams, which they're going to have to. The SEC seeding this year is going to be probably the biggest headache for the committee, trying to figure out how to try to keep these SEC teams apart. But there's only going to be so much they can do. But there's going to be 1 or 2 teams that are in the same bracket with St. John's, and I wouldn't like that. I don't care who it is. Just because, again, you look at the way that team's going to play, and you know who's on the sideline coaching them up. And I keep saying this, and I said this to someone maybe last week or something, but I'm like, if we really think about this, there are going to be people that will look at the advanced metrics and say, well, St. John's is around like a top 20 team or something like that. I'm like, hang on a second, guys. We've got to remember something. They've lost 3 games this season by a combined, 7 points, 5 points, something like that. It's unreal that we're talking literally 2 or 3 possessions from St. John's having a chance to be maybe the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just kind of where we are with them. And so I would want absolutely no part of them at all anywhere in the NCAA tournament bracket.
Yeah, 5 points combined in those 3 losses. Yeah. That is incredible. And rolling right now, 10 straight wins. I don't care who you are. I do not want to see St. John's in the tournament. Well, Blake, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
Thanks, guys. Always enjoy it.
Thanks, Blake. Blake Lovell joining us every single week. And he's right. St. John's. It's Pitino, and I don't care if you're Auburn or... Oh, he sure is. But I don't care if you're Auburn. I don't care if you're Duke. I don't care who you are. I do not want to see St. John's in the tournament.
I know it's hard to, but remove everything off the court.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult.
Very.
But do that, and then on the court.
Oh, man.
If he had stayed at Kentucky and hadn't taken the Boston Celtics and a piece of the pie, and it changed. It was life-changing financially for him. Just set forever. And that mattered to him. And it matters to all of us.
It matters to a lot, yeah.
He would have stayed at Kentucky. He would have been bigger than Rupp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easily. I mean, this is a guy we talked about it yesterday. I was listening after everyone was talking about what Rick Pitino said about trying to get Memphis into the Big East. I went and listened to his conversation with Coach K, and I listened to the whole thing. I was doing it to hear what he said about Memphis, but I just wanted to hear him and Coach K having a conversation and hearing him talk about, being his first job, one of his first jobs in coaching was as an assistant with Hubie Brown and just what he learned from them. I mean, think about it, all of the knowledge that Hubie Brown has about basketball, and then Rick Pitino just soaking that in. And I mean, he's an incredible coach. He is not a guy I would want to mess with, and he has St. John's absolutely rolling right now.
He does, and for whatever team that he would potentially draw that first weekend, if he won and then advanced, the advanced scout on him, well, he'll be ready.
Oh yeah. Oh, he would absolutely be ready. And yeah, it's a fun team. They play tonight. It's gonna be a fun team to keep an eye on. They're on the road tonight against Villanova, so maybe a tricky game for him tonight. I wanted to look up real quick and see where St. John's is in just a random bracketology. I pulled up Jerry Palm. I can't find them on his bracket. Oh, I do see him as a 4 seed against Akron. Winner would play the winner of Texas Tech, McNeese, and then you could see maybe Alabama meeting them in the Sweet 16. That would be a great matchup. Alabama and St. John's in a Sweet 16 game.
And let Bama have that day that they only make 6 or 7 threes. Look out.
And
I mentioned he would be bigger than Rupp had he stayed. There's 2 great had they stayed. If Saban had stayed at LSU.
Oh, yeah.
And if Pitino had stayed at Kentucky. I think Pitino would have topped him.
Wow. I think you're right.
Right behind. I mean, the next year, Tubby won it with with his guys, and I mean he would have had that one. He would have had the one he won at Louisville somewhere and all there. He would have had the one that Cal won at Kentucky somewhere in there, and about 2 more.
Probably, yeah. I mean, you'd be
now. With it might have been some issues.
What's going on behind the scenes, you know? But, yeah, you talk about all those. I mean, you're talking about the greatest basketball coach of all time if he goes on and does all of that. So,
Brian, I'm telling you, going to those games, and one of my favorite nights at Barnhill was in 93. Yeah, in about this time, late February of 93. And it's hard for me to believe that Saturday's the first time a 1 versus 2, because I would have sworn I went to some 1-2s, Arkansas and Kentucky, but I guess I didn't. Sometimes you convince yourself of things that really didn't happen. But I know that night at Barnhill, a little bit later game, like maybe a 8:30 tip, and really hot and stuffy in Barnhill. Nolan wanted it that way, and when they came out for the college basketball coaches don't come out till right at tip time, and when Pitino came out, he came out in cowboy boots and kind of lifted up his trousers to show Nolan, and then they went at it.
That is fantastic.
But Rick Pitino in cowboy boots.
That's a sight right there.
Yeah,
I would pay money to see that.
And they went at it. Those games, those teams. I would have sworn I was at an Arkansas-Kentucky 1 versus 2 Super Bowl Sunday afternoon when the 49ers beat the Chargers, but I guess I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard
a great game.
Yeah, I believe it. When I heard that stat that it's the first time ever in the SEC, I kind of sat there and go, that's the first time ever? I mean, you'd think that, some of these great teams you've had in the SEC that, they would have met before, but I guess
Scotty
not.
Thurman at the buzzer. That was at Bud Walton, though.
Yeah. But it's going to be fun on Saturday for sure, 1 versus 2. I know we'll talk a lot about it the next couple of days as we build up to Saturday. But let's go ahead and get to another break. When we come back, we got to talk the NBA. We're only a couple of days away from All-Star Weekend. Tonight, every single team in the NBA will play. Tomorrow night, the final night before All-Star Weekend, only 5 games. When we return, we'll talk NBA.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say Alexa, play Sports Fix. Sports
Hey y'all, it's the Mid-South Sports Boat and RV Show, February 14th to the 16th at the Agri Center. Come buy your new boat and make some memories at the lake this summer with family and friends. Premier dealers showcasing the newest ski boats, pontoons, fishing boats with huge show specials. Enter for your chance to win daily door prizes. It's all at the Mid-South Sports Boat and RV Show, February 14th to the 16th. For more info, go to MemphisBoatShow.com. That's MemphisBoatShow.com.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, beyond the bottle, Tito's has gained a reputation for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits around the world to serve its community and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's and learn more at Tito'sVodka.com. 40% alcohol by volume, mainly 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Step up your wings game at East Coast Wings and Grill. With 60 wing flavors and 7 heat indexes, do you have what it takes to turn the heat on your wings up to insanity? East Coast Wings and Grill is family friendly with a large variety menu to satisfy the whole bunch. Sign up today for their loyalty program and taste the rewards. For every dollar you spend, you collect a point. Earn 100 points and receive a $5 reward. Next to Lowe's on Highway 64 in Marlin, come try America's best wings at East Coast Wings and Grill.
Rick's Powder Coating for a beautiful finish every time. Rick's Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With 2 conveyor lines and the largest bench ovens in the Mid-South, Rick's can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Rick's Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Rick's Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or rickspowdercoating.com.
This Rebel Yell is back. The Rebel Yell online radio show is back on WHBQ Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Every Monday night at 6, hear the latest news on your Ole Miss Rebels with Nancy Porter with 24/7 Sports. Former Ole Miss defensive tackle Mike Fitzsimmons, Gordon Ford covering SEC sports ball, and former Ole Miss baseball announcer Gary Garvey from kickoff hours through the extra innings. Your Ole Miss Sports on the Rebel Yell Hotline Show right here Monday night at 6 on Sports 56 live 60 AM and 98.5 FM. Your Mid-South Sports Station.
This traffic brought to you by Brinson Tax Service. They protect you like family.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. MPD mopping up a couple of wrecks out here. It continues to rain in certain areas. Just give yourself extra time. We've watched it increase with that volume on 40 East from Warford, Hollywood, all the way over to Covington Pike. It's only going to get busier in the next few minutes on 240 East up by Poplar, working your way past Walnut Grove as it increases also south of Memphis. Be careful down 55 right now into DeSoto County. Again, you're dodging rain showers and some radar. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help, call Lawn Solutions. That number's 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Well, we got to talk the NBA only a couple days before the All-Star break. Obviously, the Grizzlies will be getting a lot of coverage locally here, All-Star break, with Jaren Jackson Jr. As an All-Star, and then you've got both of the rookies part of the Rising Stars team in their little tournament format they're going to play. So there'll be a lot of coverage there over the weekend. I know we talked to DeMichael Cole on Monday. He's going to be out there, so we'll talk, or he'll have a lot of coverage from All-Star Weekend. But something that we didn't talk about, I think I believe it happened yesterday, if my memory serves correct, but we did not really have enough time to get it in yesterday. But Brandon Ingram, after being traded to Toronto at the trade deadline, agreed to a 3-year, $120 million extension with the Raptors. The final year of that deal is a player option, so he'll have that option in the 27-28 season, which will be good for him. But it looks like Toronto, a team that it feels like they're in the middle of a rebuild, feel like they have the pieces to try to do something in the East moving forward.
Well, they got a big piece with him, and I think they can. We need to all do thoughts and prayers and thank yous. Go East, young man.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, finally a star moving east, and but no, I mean, I think you bring up a good point because you look at this roster and the guys they have. Brandon Ingram is a superstar. Scotty Barnes is a really good, still pretty young player. You've got Emmanuel Quickley, who's a nice point guard. R.J. Barrett, who they went out and got in the OG Anunoby trade a year ago. They have some really good pieces, and you look at the depth. Some of the guys they bring off the bench with Grady Dick and Jacoby Walter, who's a rookie. It feels like they'll have another top pick this year if things keep going a similar direction this year. They could really be putting some things together, and we might, in a year or two, be talking about Toronto being a factor in the East.
A little more draft, a little more free agent, a little bit of luck.
Yeah, and I think they could be right there.
And the start over after they won it.
Yeah, and it looks a lot different from what it looked like.
I'd trade with them.
I would too. I definitely would. Have that ring, have that
I look
banner.
forward to the start over after the Grizzlies have won it.
Of course, yeah. Get me there and give me a ring, give me a parade, and whatever comes after that, so be it.
Yeah.
As long as I
You
got
take
that. Yeah. I'd be happy with that. But definitely.
It's like we were talking about last week with Todd Lebo. To get to where, and Todd sure didn't sound like it, but to where some of their fans, it was a little ho-hummy.
Yeah, been there, done that. It's another
and,
year.
And it showed in the crowd Sunday.
It did. I mean, it was overrun by Eagle fans, and so yeah. I mean, I'd trade with Kansas City. I'd love to be bored with a Super Bowl appearance.
And that was the booing at Taylor Swift when she was on the Jumbotron, is because she dates a star for the opposing team that only had about 30% fans there. The other team had about 60, and the other 10 didn't care.
Yeah, the storylines of whatever it might be, whatever the reason is that people are trying to say Taylor Swift got booed. No, it's the Eagles fans overran
She dates
them,
their star player.
and the Eagle fans are the same Eagle fans that booed Santa Claus. I mean, they'll boo anybody, especially when it's a star.
Threw snowballs
that,
at Santa.
Yes, I mean, how do you do that? But if they'll do that to
there's
Santa,
some
they'll
bad
certainly do that
places
to Taylor.
reserved for somebody that throws a snowball at Santa,
Yes,
isn't it?
It's got to be. I mean, it really
Maybe
has
even
to.
one of the drunk seasonal mall Santa Clauses.
Yes,
You still don't throw
it's
snowballs
still
at him,
Santa,
do you?
No, it's still
Right.
Santa. It's still Santa. What he does in his personal time, it's on him,
Oh,
It's
during the
still
holidays,
Santa.
who was it? I asked a sweet little child. I said, have you seen Santa yet? He said, yeah, everywhere.
Well,
everywhere you go, you see him.
yeah, you do. A lot of Christmas time, Santas pop up everywhere.
Whose child told me that? They were serious
That's
too. Like,
funny.
yeah, everywhere you turn.
Everywhere you go, there's a Santa Claus somewhere. I was a little surprised last night. Going back to the NBA, I didn't watch a ton of NBA outside of the Grizzlies game last night, but to see the Detroit Pistons, the same Detroit Pistons team that was record-settingly bad last year.
Speaking of starting overs.
Yes. A 132-92 win on the road in Chicago last night.
And they were once, just expecting to be around Eastern Conference Finals or in the NBA Finals. They had those really two runs of great teams. And now they've had the start back and the climb up and about as happy to be 2 over 500 as anyone.
Yeah, and I mean, this is they've got a lot of really good pieces. You talk about obviously JB Bickerstaff over there now, and I think
Perfect team for him.
A perfect team for
I
him.
thought wrong by Cleveland, but we knew he'd coach somewhere.
Yeah,
and we know he's a really good person.
Really good person, really good coach, and I think this is a really good spot for him. I mean, you look at all of the young talent they have Cade Cunningham, if he can stay healthy, he is a superstar. Obviously, Jalen Duren has given them some really good minutes. Sir Thompson, the Thompson brothers. Whatever wanted to be said before the draft about, they didn't play college basketball, they didn't play at a professional level before going to the NBA, both of them have absolute star written all over them.
They sure do. And I'll go back to what I said at some point during Duren's one and only year here. And I was reluctant to do it because, okay, I've been burned a little bit on some of these over-the-top pronouncements.
Yeah.
I said in the pros, he's going to be Kevin Garnett.
Mm-hmm. He just first day you saw him, he looked like an absolute
just had to grow into those feet and hands and in that body.
Yep, he did, and he is he's doing it really well. And right now averaging a double-double for Detroit, starting at center.
And they say
for them.
the work ethic. He's really burned. And I asked that. I didn't make any declarations. I just asked to people at the time, does it burn in him to be great? And they said, we're trying to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah, and
that's a no.
Yeah,
but now it's a yes. That paycheck will make it burn.
Look, that'll
and sometimes it won't.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of young players is you kind of reach that intersection of are you going to put in the work? Are you going to take, because for a lot of these guys,
satisfied.
Sure, and for a lot of these guys, Jalen Duren's one of them. From the age of 7 or 8 until he got drafted in the NBA, most every night when he stepped onto the floor, he was the best player on the court that night.
The first pick of every pickup game.
And so, for a lot of guys, they're able to do that, and they go, I don't need to put in the work. I'm the best player on my team. I'm the best player out here. And so you get to that intersection a lot, and certainly for Jalen Duren, it looks like he is completely bought in, and he's been fun to watch.
What you just said is probably the first best testimonial to LeBron James.
Yeah.
To still be doing it,
it's incredible.
It's burning him.
Yeah.
And he can't spend all the money.
No, neither him nor any of his kids or wife or anybody.
It's impossible.
It literally is impossible. But no, and I have talked about this with my buddies, when they're playing on TNT or ESPN and we're watching them, and I hope that we're not just overlooking him, because it feels like for whatever reason LeBron James has become very polarizing. Obviously, likes to be political. It's not for everybody. I understand it. But I feel like we get to
I
a
love
point,
watching him play basketball.
I don't want to overlook what he is doing right now at the age of 40 at a level where he is still the best player for the Lakers at his age. It is incredible, and I hope we don't take it for granted, because you're never going to see that again.
And I know I've said it, even if it irritates me some about Bronny, but if he hadn't done enough for the league to get that exception, then who has?
Exactly. If you're going to give that break to anybody and say, we'll throw you a bone here.
Along the way, he made him a lot of money.
He did. And so, it's crazy to see what he's still doing at this level.
Now I feel differently about him when he rolls through FedEx Forum at playoff time.
If Memphis and the Lakers beat the playoffs,
fanboy talk.
Yeah, it'll be very different for sure. We talked.
Remember when I wanted the Lakers a few years ago?
Screaming it from the rafters, Brett.
Well, I got it.
I want the big bad Lakers, and didn't work out. Didn't work out at all. Who do we want this year?
The Lakers.
The Lakers again. It's always the Lakers. You always want the Lakers.
Well, selfishly, you get them, you get the convenient tip times.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You don't get buried in those 9:20 tip times.
That is true. Brett, we talked about the Rockets earlier, and really have kind of struggled. They have absolutely struggled since playing the Grizzlies, have not won since losing to the Grizzlies. And remember, before that, they were on quite the roll, had won 4 straight games, back-to-back games.
We were about to concede the 2.
We absolutely were. And, before they played the Grizzlies, back-to-back wins against the Cavaliers, a win on the road against the Celtics, a win on the road against the Hawks. Since then, they picked up their first win in their last game against the Raptors. Tonight, they're at home against the Suns. After seeing the Suns last night, second night on a back-to-back for the Suns, that's going to be a game that I'll have my eyes on tonight to see what does this Rockets team look like in their final game before the All-Star break, because that's a team, unlike the Grizzlies, they need to get back. They need to get to the All-Star break, try to regroup. Hey, we were doing so great. Now we're kind of hitting a rough patch. Let's regroup and try to get back out there and try to get back to where we were before you lost 5-6 straight games.
Boy, that's 2 teams tonight. It could be futility on both sides of just get me to the break.
Yeah, it was good. Rockets play tomorrow night as well, so they still have 2 games.
Kind of like the
till
coughing
break.
fits I've been on. Brian, just get me to a break.
Hey, it happens. It's that time of the year. Allergy season is upon us and everything going on. But 2 tough games for the Rockets tonight at home against the Suns, tomorrow night at home against the Warriors before we get to All-Star break. But definitely a ton to keep an eye on with the NBA, and certainly we'll be watching the Grizzlies tonight, 9:30 against the Clippers. I mentioned it earlier, still haven't seen an update. I'm sure we'll get one here maybe in the next 30 minutes to an hour. If not, we'll certainly get one before game time. But Vince Williams Jr. and Ja Morant both listed as questionable on the updated status report that came out this afternoon about 3 o'clock. So we'll wait and see if either of those guys are able to go. Both played really well last night against Phoenix, both dealing with knee soreness. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's go ahead and get to a break. And when we come back, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
If wedding bells are in your future, you need an unforgettable engagement ring from a jeweler you can trust. And that's been James Gaddis Jewelers for over 60 years. With a huge selection and the best prices, James Gaddis is a master jeweler and diamondologist. Beautiful jewelry from James Gaddis is always the right choice. Choose from rings to earrings, necklaces to bracelets, and gemstones to watches. Layaway and financing available. James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar, online at GaddisJewelers.com and Instagram at Gaddis Jewelers. Say I do at James Gaddis Jewelers.
Are you a chronic interrupter? Incapable of letting other people talk? Do those people ask, how do you sleep at night? Then you should go to Mattress Firm. They have a 120-night sleep trial, so you can get your money back if a bed's not right. That way anyone, even someone like you, can sleep. All night. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store website for details.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five-Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money,
I know it's not spring yet, but it's close, and right now, it's the perfect time to start thinking and planning for your backyard entertainment. Just so happens Family Leisure is thinking that way too, with their preseason pool and patio sale. Get 2024 pricing on all above-ground pools and patio furniture. Also, secure your spot for pool installation. That way, you can go ahead and start making plans. Lots of new inventory is en route, so in-stock patio furniture is up to 70% off. You want a play gym, a trampoline, how about an outdoor kitchen to go along with that new pool? They're all on sale too. You can get spas up to $3,000 off and save even more by mentioning this ad. You do that, you'll get a $250 gift card with a pool, spa, or patio furniture purchase. Winter won't last forever. The spring will be here soon, so get ready with the preseason pool and patio sale at Family Leisure, Rick Road off I-40, where family and fun all come together.
I'm so excited.
I had a feeling you'd be excited.
That doesn't even begin to describe how I feel about the new Central Barbecue location on Central.
Well, technically, it's the same location.
Same location, but a very different Central Barbecue on Central.
I get what you're saying, but I don't want to confuse people. The new Central Barbecue location on Central is the same place as the old Central Barbecue on Central.
But it's so much more. It's big, for one thing.
It is a whole lot bigger. Well, I think it has to be.
Because everybody in Memphis is going to be flocking to the new Central Barbecue location on Central.
Where the old Central Barbecue on Central used to be.
Details.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
Well, my big number today is the number 30. Last night, UConn, mentioned it earlier, a 70-66 win on the road against Creighton. A big reason for that victory was the play of Liam McNeely, the true freshman for UConn. I think a lot of people will remember Liam. He had a good game against Memphis, if I remember correctly. 10 points. He had a couple of big threes late in that game when they were coming back to force overtime. He's missed some time with injury, but last night he was really, really good. Finished with 38 points, had 10 rebounds, 1 assist, shot 50% from 3, 54.5% from the field. I saw this nugget late last night. Liam McNeely is one of 3 Division I freshmen in the last 20 years to have 30 or more points, 10 or more rebounds, and 5 or more threes made in a road game. The others, Steph Curry at Davidson and Kevin Durant at Texas. So Liam McNeely joins a really good group of basketball players that have had that over 30 points, over 10 rebounds, 5 or more made threes in a road game in the last 20 years. He's been really good. He's going to be a guy, he'll hear his name on draft night. And if he continues to stay hot, he could be a big-time factor of UConn maybe making some noise at the end of the regular season and maybe even into the tournament.
We know they get better and better and better from this point on. They have the last 2 years, really 2 years ago, really caught everybody by surprise, not as much last year. Last night, we weren't saying must win, had to have it, but just felt like to change the dynamic a little bit for UConn. They needed it, and you saw Hurley's reaction.
Yeah, you did.
Did you see Clayton Collier's tweets?
I did, right there next to him.
Right there on top of it.
That was great. So I love seeing a good tweet from Clayton and saying, oh yeah, that's right, he's up there covering Creighton now
and going rings.
Yeah, did.
Showing out. He's got them. I think this is going to be the biggest big number of the calendar year 2025. You ready?
Okay, all right.
$808 million.
Woo.
$808 million. That's what the SEC made and will distribute this year to each member institution.
Wow.
$67 million more than last year.
Wow.
$808 million to divvy up.
I'll take it.
And you can't talk to anybody in college sports that's not singing the blues about money.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
you just made $808 million.
Budget's tight everywhere, Brett.
Toughest time ever.
Times
are tough.
Times are
tough
very
times.
tough. But not with those figures. Those figures would tell you
let's cut the
things
radio
going
team.
really well.
That's first move ever.
Let's cut that
Got to cut
pregame
somewhere.
guy.
yeah, that's the ones that's spending all the money.
That's right. Yes. Oh man, I know you, Brett. You're spending all the money.
Oh, you know it.
You
all
are,
the fancy wine dinners.
That's right. You're subject number one to that. I just saw this on Twitter. X, whatever I'm supposed to call it. We were talking earlier about, do the Grizzlies get enough recognition, enough talk on these NBA shows on television? Just saw this. Udonis Haslem, who's now doing a lot of work with ESPN, this was his quote: "I think the Memphis Grizzlies like flying under the radar."
Okay.
I like it. Sure.
Do we?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think we do, or we wouldn't have brought it up.
No, I don't think we do. Maybe the team does, but I don't think we haven't really seen the Grizzlies yet as not a team flying under the radar, because it felt like they were flying under the radar, they get there, and then all the injuries hit when they were supposed to be this team, the hunted instead of the hunters, and so now you're kind of right back into that flying under the radar.
Off the court got them as much as on.
Exactly. And so I don't know if we've really seen them be able to play that role of flying above the radar or on the radar.
Yeah, and when Dylan Brooks was here, he did a lot of talking.
But you don't really have a super talker on this team.
No, and that's fine.
Believe me, I'm fine by it.
That's to Udonis Haslem's argument.
Yeah, it is. And so definitely interesting there from UD, who I like Udonis Haslem on the set.
I like under promising and over delivering.
Yes, absolutely. And but it is. I go back to it. I still think
the Jalen Hurts attitude.
Sure, and I still think, and maybe even this kind of goes back to what UD is saying, or kind of more of his point. I don't know if this group was really flying under the radar locally, because we knew last year there were so many injuries. We knew that getting this group back together healthy, they were going to be great. They were going to be good. They were going to get right back in there. When we were talking before the season, you saw all these predictions. Who makes that jump? Where are teams seated in the West? And, the Grizzlies would come in at 8, and this other team would be the prediction. We were going, no, the Grizzlies are going to be right there. And so I still think, even though we're at the All-Star break, basically, I still think it's taking some of the national media more time to say, hey, look, the Grizzlies were this before all of those injuries hit, and now they're not dealing with injuries, and they're back. I mean, it's not like it was some sort of something changed. It's just there were injuries there.
And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Excuse me. Everybody feels like they have to say the same thing. Mm-hmm. I wish we could do more than one thing at a time across all the sports, but it feels like when we're covering the NBA, there's only about 3 or 4 teams that we can really show and cover.
Yeah.
The national presentation of it.
No, especially on some of these networks. I mean, there's 4 teams in about every sport that they want to talk about. Cowboys in the NFL, no matter if it's good, bad, ugly, whatever it might be. They're talking Cowboys. That's going to be there. And so it feels like that's for a lot of sports.
But if you win, they'll talk about you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, heck, everyone's talking about the Eagles right now. I just looked up ESPN. They're doing a segment on PTI about the Eagles, So you win, and you're going to be on Fallon, and you're going to be the talk of everybody. So Grizzlies
and if you lose, you get forgotten. Mm-hmm. I mean, a week ago, we're talking about Brady, Mahomes, Brady. I mean, never mind a Mount Rushmore. Just have 2 heads on a mountain, and you can't get a Mahomes mention since about 9:00 Sunday night.
Yeah, well, I was talking about this with Johnny Radio earlier. I said, it's weird. Before we were talking about this dynasty of the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, one of the greats of all time, and what Andy Reid's doing. I go, they lose, nobody wants to talk about him at all. And on the other side, before the season started, we were talking about Sirianni. Is he head coach material? Is he the right guy?
Before the season, we were doing it in October.
Exactly. Even when the season started, he's yelling at his fans, and we're going, okay, this could get ugly in Philadelphia.
And you know who would like to have a word about all that?
Who's that?
Ryan Day.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a great point. So it's
Well,
it's
he
just
was going to make
weird.
it to the Tennessee playoff game.
We thought it was the Neyland North, and that he was going to be run out of town after that game was over if they lost, and now he's a national champion. So it's funny how things can flip like that. Things can change, and you can become the talk of the town just overnight. But we need to wrap up this hour, get to another break. Reminder: we're out early today, out about 5:30 for Ole Miss basketball pregame tonight in their game against South Carolina. So when we come back, we're going to talk to Kevin Sweeney, a lot of college basketball with him. We'll go short with him, then we'll get to an early crunch time. That's next on Sports Time.
Attention homeowners, it's time to score big with Choate's air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and generators. For the first 50 callers who purchase a new carrier system, generator, or tankless water heater, choose between 60 months of no interest financing or free air duct cleaning, a $500 value. Plus, don't miss our $39 February deals. Choose from a furnace tune-up, a sewer inspection, or an electrical panel inspection. It's the perfect way to prepare your home for the season. But hurry, this winning deal ends February 28th. Don't fumble this opportunity to claim these amazing offers. Call Choates today at 347-8086. And remember, Choates, let our family serve your family.
I know it's not spring yet, but it's close, and right now, it's the perfect time to start thinking and planning for your backyard entertainment. It just so happens Family Leisure is thinking that way too, with their preseason pool and patio sale. Get 2024 pricing on all above-ground pools and patio furniture. Also, secure your spot for pool installation. That way, you can go ahead and start making plans. Lots of new inventory is en route, so in-stock patio furniture is up to 70% off. You want a play gym, a trampoline, how about an outdoor kitchen to go along with that new pool? They're all on sale too. You can get spas up to $3,000 off and save even more by mentioning this ad. You do that, you'll get a $250 gift card with a pool, spa, or patio furniture purchase. Winter won't last forever. The spring will be here soon, so get ready with the preseason pool and patio sale at Family Leisure, Whit Road off I-40, where family and fun all come together.
Napa Cafe celebrates 26 years in 2024. Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I want to thank you for making us part of your dining experiences. Treat yourself tonight with a delightful dinner. Maybe start with an appetizer like our baked sweet peculiar peppers stuffed with goat cheese and mozzarella, finished with basil pistou, and move on to one of our cozy dishes like the double chocolate stout braised boneless beef short ribs with tonkatsu sauce and creamy mashed potatoes, or a fresh seafood dish like our pan-roasted ginger buttered sea bass with cilantro soy vinaigrette. I get hungry just talking about it. Don't forget about dessert, our famous sweet buttermilk pie with brown sugar sauce, or drink your dessert with one of our signature dessert cocktails, like the lemon cheesecake martini, lemony, icy, frothy, and dusted with graham cracker crumbs. Napa Cafe, open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. For reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us as we celebrate 26 years of Napa Cafe. We can't wait to serve you.
This traffic brought to you by Brinson Tax Service. They protect you like family.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. There's a couple of accidents out here getting some attention. It really has increased with that volume. Just in the last few minutes on 240 East at Poplar, working your way up to Walnut Grove. It won't be long before it bunches up there on 40 East from Sycamore View Road all the way out past Germantown Parkway. All that traffic this time of the afternoon headed out into Fayette County as you come off the interstate there on the Austin Peay Highway headed outbound. We've watched that increase with that volume. If your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, call Lawn Solutions. Over 30 years experience, Lawn Solutions at 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio. Studios. We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Plus. Once again, Ben Northworthy and Brian.
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You said you love
Right back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios as we start our third and final hour. A short hour. We're out early. Ole Miss basketball. They're in action tonight. 6 o'clock tip against South Carolina. We'll have pregame right here at 5:30. So let's go ahead and talk some college basketball with Kevin Sweeney. He joins us every single week to talk some college hoops from Sports Illustrated. Go give him a follow on Twitter at CBB_Central. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with some Tiger talk. Right now, a lot of the talk is the injury to Tyrese Hunter. He did not play in the game over the weekend against Temple. Memphis able to get a win without him. Dante Harris providing some really good minutes at the guard position. But there's a lot of question if he'll be able to go this week. There's been some thought about maybe resting him for a game or two. When you look at what Tyrese Hunter has done for this team this year at that guard position as a leader, how do you think the Tigers should handle this?
Obviously, super important to what they do. I think the luxury that Memphis has built because they're comfortably an NCAA tournament team right now instead of the bubble sweats they've been going through here the last several years is that you can sit him down and make sure he's healthy, right? You don't want something lingering into March. And I think if a week or two off, obviously it depends, injury to injury, you don't know, but like if the trainer say, hey man, 2 weeks would do him a lot of good right now, I'd give him the 2 weeks and help him ready for March.
Yeah.
This Tiger team, though, I don't think it peaked in November and December, but it definitely was playing more competitive teams. But I do think it is getting better even against this league.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? Like, I hope you're learning something. I mean, people always used to joke with Gonzaga, like, how much are they learning about themselves when they're playing teams so far ahead of their level, or so far below their level, excuse me.
Great comparison.
In league play. And, better or worse, Memphis has played a lot of close games. They've battled. They've had to win different style of games, which I think helps. Some grinded-out ball games, some faster-paced games. So, yeah, look, I think the hope is to continue to develop some of these role players. Can Dante Harris continue to emerge into a piece? And you get the big men playing well. Danger was good over the weekend. I think those are the things to watch looking forward.
Do you really trust the committee, though, will consciously say North Carolina and Duke couldn't win at Clemson, but Memphis did?
You would hope, right? I mean, and look, I think at the end of the day, we'll learn a lot this weekend. The committee does their top 16 reveal, I believe at 12:30 Eastern. That's a huge early moment, right? I mean, if Memphis is a top 4 seed, that says a lot. They also reveal like the next stuff essentially. So that 5 line. If Memphis isn't in that group, it's hard to imagine them climbing into that group here over the next couple of weeks as they don't play the big time opponents that others do. I expect they will be either right at the back end, that 15-16, or in that also consider range. But if they're not, obviously some warning signs about seeding.
Has that reveal in the last few years, has that been a predictor of actual seeding when we get the full bracket? And would you like to see more revealed other than 16?
I mean, a full bracket would be awesome. I think 16 is enough to give you a sense of what the committee's thinking about, what the committee's valuing. That's really helpful. And I think the other thing with the 16 is obviously it's a data point. It's early enough in the process where teams' resumes will be a lot different. But if you look up and say, hey, man, the committee really liked Team X more than you would have expected, more than maybe the bracketologist consensus was 3 weeks ago, they probably still will on Selection Sunday. So, yeah, I'd be all in favor of continuing it. But even the one reveal does help us a little bit.
Brett mentioned Clemson and their wins over Duke and North Carolina at home. What do you see in this Clemson team right now? A team that you look at really since the start of January have only lost 2 games: a road loss against Louisville, a home loss that went to 3 overtimes against Georgia Tech. What do you see in Clemson right now?
Yeah, they're playing great. I think the biggest thing is Victor Locken, the transfer from Cincinnati. Didn't come in with a ton of fanfare, but he's been phenomenal. 22 against Duke, turned around 22 more against Carolina. I mean, look, dominating Carolina's front court is not the hardest thing to do right now, but he was impressive. And if you combine him and Shefflin up front with a really excellent point guard in Chase Hunter, I mean, you got a pretty good recipe here. They have size, athleticism, and a really good guard who can go make shots.
Mm-hmm. I'm watching right now the St. John's game, and you look at what Rick Pitino is doing at St. John's. That defense is one of the best in the country. Last Friday, they get the win over UConn. How far do you think Rick Pitino's team could go in March this year?
Man, I think they can go to a Final Four. Obviously limited offensively, but you look at their 3 losses. I mean, it was a 99-98 double overtime loss to Baylor that took a 35-footer from Jeremy Roach to beat them. Then a Georgia team that's very solid, and St. John's led that game late. And then a 1-point loss to Creighton that was right down to the wire. Like, they've been in every game they've played, and the way that they defend should translate to any setting. Now, again, are they vulnerable on a day they shoot poorly? Yeah, absolutely they are. But as elite as they are defensively, as old as they are, and as athletic they are, they're going to be a tough out.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the team that can't have that poor shooting day that'll really get them?
I think if you look at Tennessee in SEC play, 39% from 3 in their 7 wins, 24% in their 5 league losses. Because they play slower. It's a tricky combination if you're going to play slow and be very 3-point reliant, because the Alabamas of the world, you're playing so many possessions, you hope that eventually it starts to come out in the wash. The numbers start to regress back to the mean. With Tennessee, if you're going to grind it out and you're going to shoot a lot of threes, yeah, it's going to look really, really good some days, but when it looks bad, it might look real bad.
Mm-hmm. Tennessee a loss last night against Kentucky, and this Kentucky team feels like they're getting healthier. Lamont Butler back last night. They did lose. They have lost a couple players outside of him. Kirk Krissa feels like getting closer to returning. When this Kentucky team is at full strength, how good are they?
I think offensively they're so dang good because they have so many weapons who can beat you on any given night. I mean, they were tough to guard yesterday, and that was without Jackson Robinson, who's arguably their most talented offensive player. Now, I think their defensive warts are very real. I don't think they're magically solved by any one guy getting healthy. Now, Lamont Butler being healthy is the most important one because he is their point of attack guy defensively, their heart and soul on that end of the floor. But they're going to live with those limitations because in the big games they found ways to win, and if they're fully healthy, I think they can beat just about anyone.
How good is Ole Miss?
I mean, they've earned all the love and attention at 18-6. Obviously, was not pretty on Saturday most of the way, but teams that have that sort of never say die mentality, and Chris Beard has instilled that in a lot of teams over the years.
Yep.
It's different, and I think they always believe they could find a way to come back and win that game. And you hope that that's the type of springboard into February and March that can really propel you into a special season.
I think he's doing one of his great jobs of all time. I don't think it's an overly talented team. You have some pieces that's been around for a while, but they've often been very inconsistent. I'm talking about Morrell and Brakefield.
They're doing a good job getting older. They're not the biggest team by any means. Obviously, playing a lot of smaller guards and relying on some of these bigger wings like Davis to guard up spots, Brakefield as well. But they have different guys that can beat you on different nights, and I think that's a scary recipe because you have Davis, you have Morrell, you have Padula. Jalen Murray's been big in big moments. Like, they have enough guys that they can withstand one or two cold shooting nights and still win.
Mm-hmm. Going back to Rick Pitino for a second, there was a quote from him I guess it was last week. I think last Thursday he joined Coach K on Coach K's Sirius XM show, and Coach K asked him about where the Big East is right now as a conference with all of the conference expansion and everything going on, conference realignment, I should say. And Rick Pitino said that he thinks that the Big East should do expansion. He threw out Memphis, he threw out Davidson, but St. Louis as well was in there. Also said that he agreed with Coach K's idea of trying to form a super conference with the ACC, where you have a lot of those ACC basketball schools playing these Big East schools in conference play. What did you make of those quotes from Rick Pitino? I know it's been making a lot of rounds here because he included Memphis in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily buy the super conference angle for them. I think, adding a bunch of A-10 teams that, traditionally have kind of at best been bubble teams, I don't think really does anything for the league. I don't think it makes Rick Pitino's life any better if he's playing St. John's, he's playing UConn once instead of twice. That makes their resume worse, not better. I do think there's value in Memphis. Like, I think, one of the things I've thought a lot about is, traditionally conferences have sort of grouped up based on kind of institutional identity, right? Private schools with private schools, the Catholic Seven, obviously, the root of the Big East.
Commuter with commuter, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I think now you need to group up based on kind of athletic identity. Like, what is your investment level in sports today? And I think Memphis's basketball investment really fits what the Big East does. Obviously, you have to find a home for football, and curious how that all shakes out. But from a basketball standpoint, I think it'd be a slam dunk, really, for both the Big East and for Memphis.
So you don't think any ACC for Memphis in the future?
That's the challenge, right? Like, if you're the administration at Memphis, do you wait and see on an ACC or a Big 12 invitation that hasn't come, or do you take the bird in the hand that would be the Big East in basketball, and then something else in football, whether it's Pac-12, whether it's sticking in the American, stuff like that? I don't have a great answer, but I think if I could take the Big East spot and get into a multi-bid league, get good programs coming to town in conference play, I think I would take that stability over hoping for an ACC invite.
It's a tough spot for all concerned, but and not just because I live and work here and passionate about it, but I think Memphis, like your word, it brings value, and now it's got to bring money, and that was the issue last fall with the new athletics director, is that potential pack just didn't bring the money.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I mean, for the Big East, because all these programs don't have football money coming in, like, no one's taking a pay cut to add Memphis to the mix. So at minimum, they have to add the incremental value of whatever the $5 to $7 million that the league makes per school in basketball. So you have to sit down with your partners, Fox and CBS, and see if that's something that can happen. Peacock as well. But yeah, I think for all sides, how can you make the financial picture work so that Memphis is in a conference in basketball where they can compete for at-large bids and play teams that will get at-large bids regularly? And in football, can you be in a conference that gets you to the college football playoff or gets you an opportunity to go to the playoffs? Those are the two paths, and you got to figure out how to make both happen at once, which is easier said than done.
I know places are going to have to adhere to federal law, Title IX, et cetera, but for spring Olympic sports that aren't profitable hardly anywhere, and I'm not talking just for women's sports, if you're talking men's golf or track and field or even baseball at a lot of places, do you think there will ever be the AD that will just kind of completely abandon those and go, look, I gotta take a shot at basketball and football, and everything else is going to fend for itself?
Yeah, look, I think you hear the words revenue generation more from athletic directors now than you ever have. It's kind of a Cheers buzzword, if you will. And I think that is sort of understated. Like, our priorities are the two sports that make the money, men's basketball and football. Now, again, how do you structure that so you still have a full athletic department? Because by NCAA rules, you have to have, I believe, 14 varsity sports.
Right.
I think there's ways maybe schools can get creative and build conferences just for some of the non-revenue sports and play basketball only, football only. Maybe that's something that we see down the line. Maybe it's an investment thing, as you said. Yeah, certainly. Like, I think all those are options. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like football and basketball have always driven the bus, but they will more so now than ever before.
I want everybody to have an opportunity, but I can't let the whole ship go down trying to keep the tennis team alive.
Correct. Yes, and those are the hard conversations that people are having right now. Like, we need money. I mean, the first priority that everyone is working on as we speak is how do we have enough money to pay our roster for next year in men's basketball and football. And once you solve that problem, then we figure out how the tennis team is busting across state to play the next game.
Right. Last thing for you, Kevin. Saturday, 3 o'clock, ESPN, number 1 versus number 2. Auburn and Alabama. We've been talking about this game really all season. We didn't know it was going to be 1 versus 2. We've been talking about how big of a game this will be for both programs. It's finally here. What do you expect to see in that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, sort of fitting, right, that we get it to be 1 versus 2. I'm curious to see how Alabama deals with the moment. I thought Auburn maybe psyched itself out a little too much with all the attention and game day, all the hype, the students being there for, 3-4 days outside the arena. I thought they were almost too energized. I wonder if Alabama can avoid something similar. Maybe Auburn benefits from being sort of us against the world. But it's a great matchup. Elite guards, elite coaching, size, athleticism. It should be everything that is good about college basketball right now.
Yeah, it should be a really fun one. Kevin, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin Sweeney joining us every week to talk college basketball from Sports Illustrated. Go give him a follow on social media at CBB_Central. I mentioned it earlier. We're out early today. Ole Miss basketball. They've got a road game tonight against South Carolina, 6 o'clock tip. So we'll have pregame starting right here on Sports 56 at 5:30. So we're going to get to an early crunch time. Before we do that, let me remind you about Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City has been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984, and their talented team is ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar, and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender. Available in multiple models to fit your needs, the Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169. Go online to jaguarbluffcity.com, but please head out there and see these beautiful models. 6335 Wheel Cove, just off of Quince for Bluff City Jaguar. Let's go ahead and get to crunch time.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye!
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin, this baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned yesterday, but we didn't have time to talk about it, so I learned it today. The Dodgers, we know, are really, really good. They've got a great pitching rotation, and they get one of the all-time greats, especially of this era, Clayton Kershaw. He agreed to an extension yesterday afternoon, and John asked a great question earlier today. I mean, it really is. You look at Clayton Kershaw, great pitcher, hadn't been his best the last few years. He's obviously at the end of his career. Where is he in that rotation? I mean, they have so many guys.
He's still somewhere in the rotation.
He's somewhere there.
But it's 4 or 5.
I mean,
But he is
insane.
an all thing.
Oh, he's certainly in the Hall of Fame. But, I mean, you look at what this starting pitching rotation will be for the Dodgers. Thankfully, we still have about a month or so until we really have to start worrying about it. It's going to be every single night. If these guys click like they're supposed to click, if they're on, it's going to be one of the best starting pitching rotations we've ever seen in Major League Baseball. And, you talk about it. Manfred says it's not an issue that the Dodgers are spending way more than everybody and is buying up the best team that money can buy. Well, not even money, because they're deferring all of these contracts. It's going to be fun to see all the talent with the Dodgers, but it's also going to be a pain in the rear end of every other team in Major League Baseball, because they're going to be on another level.
Dodgers come to Busch Stadium June 6th, 7th, and 8th. That's a weekend. Thank goodness for Cardinal scheduling.
Oh, yeah.
They'll get a big weekend crowd for that, because selling tickets in St. Louis is going to be tough this year.
It's going to be very tough.
And that is rare. What I learned, Travis Kelce needs some time before deciding whether or not he's going to play next year. That's fine. I understand it. All-time leader in playoff receptions. Number 1 in Super Bowl receptions. He did pass Jerry Rice on Sunday for Super Bowl receptions. Second in yards in the playoffs and second in yards in the Super Bowl. One of the great tight ends in an era of great tight ends. I still think Tony Gonzalez is the best tight end ever. But Kelsey's in an argument.
He's right there. I mean, an incredible career. If he decides to hang him up and he's done, it's going to be a great career. I hope he returns, because I would love to see a great tight end stay in the game.
But it's ending in Kansas City.
Oh, certainly. And who knows if it ends now or if we get at least one more year of that really dynamic duo. What I could have done without it stays in the NFL because this came out earlier. Kadarius Toney arrested in Georgia for allegedly strangling a woman. I hate when these stories come out. It feels like, I know these type of stories come out way too often with professional athletes, and just makes me sick every single time I see them, and this time involving wide receiver Kadarius Toney.
I could have done without. The Live CEO says Greg Norman is a gift. I've got another one-word description for what Greg Norman is, but I'm not going to use it.
Yeah.
There can be no peace in golf if Greg Norman is in the room.
No.
Completely off the scene. There will be no peace accord with Greg Norman sitting there. It makes me so happy to think back and how I cheered against him when he choked in 96 on Sunday at the Masters to Nick Faldo. The idea of him going back to a champions dinner and parading around all week in a green jacket would make me hurl.
Yeah, it is a sickening thought, that's for sure. Where are you beaming?
Ole Miss on the road at South Carolina. Ole Miss needs that win. They lost one they should have won against A&M. They won one they should have lost against LSU. Now, you can't flirt around and mess around tonight and lose that one. In football, won by 28, and South Carolina still saying they were better.
Yeah, weird how that happens. It doesn't seem like that makes much sense.
Anybody checked with the guy hung up in the bushes?
Yeah.
Need to check on him.
Definitely got to check on him. Beam me late tonight, 8:30 on ESPN. Warriors on the road against the Mavericks. We know absolute chaos in Dallas with fans getting thrown out for just mouthing the words "Fire Nico" on the Jumbotron. Now they get the Warriors coming to town. Jimmy Butler has been good since joining this Warriors team. We'll see if he keeps it up tonight.
Everybody going tonight in the NBA. 15 games. Also, college basketball started about 25 minutes ago. St. John's at Villanova. We talked a lot about Rick Pitino today, and he deserves it. And nothing says Tobacco Road like Duke tonight at home, hosting Cal Berkeley.
That's right, yeah. Cal and Duke screams ACC basketball. But no, it's going to be a good night.
That ain't the tobacco Cal usually smokes.
No. They don't smoke much tobacco out there. They smoke something else. It's not tobacco, though.
Not Salem's and Marlboro.
No, not at all. That's all time we have. Enjoy all of the basketball tonight, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11, here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up